Welcome to Open Tables. With your hosts, Cynthia Sue Larson.
That it's okay for everybody to change. It's okay to let things go. And that's really powerful.
Christopher Anatra.
The universe is based on commerce. You know me as the quantum businessman.
Jerry Hicks.
I feel like I've woken up in a parallel dimension where everybody's exactly the same. They look the same memories generally speaking, but they're different.
And Shane Robinson.
Nobody has all the answers, so everybody's welcome to share their ideas, and it really expands our consciousness when we do that.
Open Tables. Unique perspectives for a new view of reality.
Hello and welcome. We are International Mandela Effect Conference, and we're so glad to see you today. So before we get started, I'm going to start with the first slide. Today's episode was the Season 3, Episode 3. We'll be talking about natural human upgrades. And next slide, please. I'd like to read the disclaimer for International Mandela Effect Conference. The content you're about to watch is meant for thought and consideration. Please be respectful of each other and opinions shared. This is a safe space to express thoughts, ideas, and information. Please note that no copyright infringement is intended with regard to inclusion of short excerpts of material that are included in accordance with fair use under Section 107 of the Copyright Act. So I'd like to go ahead and welcome. Let's start with welcoming Christopher Anatra, quantum businessman. Love it.
Every show, I'm going to change my look a little bit. So, moving timelines, changing my look. So, woo! Good to be here. Happy
Love
spring.
to have you here. Yes, happy spring. And also Shane Robinson, unbiased and on the fence.
What's up, everybody?
And we don't have Jerry with us today, except in spirit. So, of course, he's always with us. But let's take a look at the schedule, the program that we'd like to cover. We always have such ambitious topics. So today we've got the sponsors that we love to start with, updates from myself and Shane and Chris. We may not get to the humongous fungus this time, we'll explain, but we do have a new Star Wars Mandela effect, possibly. We'll be talking about metal in the microwave, evolving from carbon to crystalline, a whole situation with 3 kidneys, magnetic sensors in our eyes, the whole Moonraker with Jaws and Dolly updates, dwarf planets, Mandela Effect chatbot time, the mailbag, and questions and answers. We have such a full program. I'd like to go ahead and start with that first slide. That should bring us to one of our sponsors. This was sent in by Alicia Thompson. Thank you so much for all of the beautiful submissions you've been sending, and to all the people that send us mail. This one is the golden jellyfish, and it's a unique gold-colored subspecies that draws visitors from everywhere in the world to Palau in the Western Pacific. Now, I've been to Palau. I visited in the 1970s when I was a little girl, but I did not see these golden jellyfish. I don't know if they were there at the time. I don't know if they're new to our timelines or what, but they're very small, apparently squishy, and they don't have a brain or heart or eyes, but that's normal for jellyfish. They do have stingers, but they don't cause any pain. We do have a clip on this one, unless anyone want to say anything about this before we roll the clip.
Let's roll the clip.
Okay. Yeah, let's take a look at it. You really feel like you're underwater with the sounds and everything.
Yeah, there's so many of them, too. I think they don't hurt.
I'll mention too as we're watching this. So I was trying to tune into what special ability does this new golden mandanimal, at least for us, have?
Yeah.
And I was getting that it's related to the roots. So something related to root chakra technology in the ability to open root portals. So if you were to get bit by one, which doesn't sting, right? It might be a good thing. It might expand your root. So very, very interesting when you start to tune into different animals and what their abilities are. That's what I was getting from this special golden jellyfish.
I love it. I once did a meditation right after one of the hardest times in my whole life, and I was seeking a power animal. And, I don't know what I was expecting, but my power animal that came in my meditation was the jellyfish. And my first reaction was, no, no. I was expecting like a lion or a tiger, something powerful to get me through this tough time. No, jellyfish. And so I've thought a lot about that, jellyfish, since that time. And it's the power and the ability to go with the flow, to not really struggle against what's happening, but to find a relaxed, kind of a easygoing, neutral, accepting, open stance to everything. And that is a power, surprisingly. So there's anything that you've got, Shane?
No, they're just beautiful. And thank you, Alicia, again, for sending such great stuff over to you. Appreciate it.
And Shane did these wonderful slides today, so thank you, Shane. This is
thank you.
Really good. So let's go to the next sponsor, please, because this golden timeline, the golden jellyfish, we've got a great start here. We do have a bunch of sponsors as usual. This one, I'm going to try to pronounce it, the Weka, discovered in Taranaki, where the protected native bird has been extinct since the 1930s. So here we have another one. We're almost to 2030, not quite, but here it is back again, almost after 100 years. And in fact, it's apparently come back so strong that it's concerning the Department of Conservation Department, which is worried that this forager might start overeating and threaten recovering ecosystems in the province of Taranaki. So I've never seen this bird. I don't know much about it, but just from this picture, it reminds me of the dodo a little bit. Maybe it's just the way is this a drawing or is this a picture?
I think
it's a photo. Yeah, it's a
wow.
photo.
But it looks unreal. There's something about it that looks, I don't know, to me, just seems like it's, I can believe it's been gone. If someone said, here's an extinct bird, I'd say, yep. But if they said, this is a photo, I'd be like, what? So I'm amazed it's back. I think it's amazing to have it back.
A flightless bird at that too.
Maybe that's why it reminds me of the dodo. Yeah.
Exactly. And if anyone doesn't know where Taranaki is on the west coast of New Zealand's North Island. And if some of you are like me, you remember when New Zealand was one island, but it's always been like a North Island and a South Island. And what Taranaki is famous for is there's a big volcano there. Also known, it's called Mount Taranaki or Mount Egmont. It's a dormant stratovolcano. Which is really interesting as well. So how did these birds get there? Like it wasn't on this part of New Zealand. Did someone bring them there? Or could we be in a new timeline where they were always there? So again, it's another fascinating thing to consider.
And again, it's predicted that these extinct animals would be coming back, and we certainly do notice that here on Open Tables.
Since the 1930s.
Yes. And any feeling about this flightless bird? I think flightless birds, maybe that's what I'm seeing in its eyes. This is a photograph apparently, but it's got this, it's like a transcendent quality that you don't usually see in a photo of a bird. I don't. I see it in predator birds often, but this is a scavenger bird. So I don't know how to convey what I'm noticing here, but it's got this sharpness of presence to its visage. Really looks like it's looking right at you, the way an artist would paint a bird. But you might not see that quality in a picture. I think you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, and Sage in the chat says maybe they never left. And it makes you wonder. It's like, because it's a flightless bird, so it's not like it flew away and flew back from somewhere else. And it's like, how do they not see one for a year if they, if they can't fly somewhere, kind of out of the way? I don't know. It's just strange.
It's not small enough to have been hiding that well.
No, it's a pretty big bird. Yeah.
has now gotten its population to such a point that it's threatening other wildlife. So it's gone from completely gone to a problem. I mean, that's a huge change right there. And over 100-year period almost. It is it's strange. Like, why would no one have seen it there?
Very cool.
So it seems like a promising indicator for the dodo. That's how I take this one. It's kind of like, hang in there, guys. Dodo's coming too.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, next slide. Let's take a look at. Here we've got the dusty tetraka sent by Lisa Henderson. And this thing is adorable. Just so cute. Oh, love the color. And it's witnessed hopping along a rainforest river. It's been considered gone, possibly extinct for 24 years. You can see the colors are beautiful. This olive green and yellow-throated bird, native to the island off the east coast of Africa. And again, that's the only place it's been noted to be seen. So it's been gone for a little time. And it's got that gold, so it's definitely one of our golden timeline returned animals. It hasn't been gone too long.
Yeah, I
It's
love
adorable.
those colors.
Yeah.
That olive and that yellow. Very beautiful. Anything to add, Chris?
I don't. Besides, I'm getting that it probably has, the green is a clue too, but it probably has some heart chakra technology too that it's good at. And like when you see it, it's like, oh, it's so cute and adorable.
Yeah.
It opens, like, it feels like it opens your heart just a little
Yeah,
bit.
it certainly does. Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like I think birds are all messengers. They remind us that we have a spiritual nature, and they cheer us up. Just to see them is usually very uplifting. This one is certainly no exception to that. Yeah, I think it's a sign of hope for the heart, hope for all of us, that our hearts can evolve, that we can heal. I think a lot of us have been concerned about our hearts the last few years. And so it's really good to receive the gift that this little character brings, the dusty tetraka. Oh my gosh, this name is challenging. Who names these birds?
And I think the whole topic of our hearts evolving is going to play into the whole concept of what we're talking about as far as like human DNA upgrades go, because we know like there's been changes with the actual position of the heart, but it feels like there's more going on lately with the heart. And a lot of us may have been purging emotions, lately, or, whatever it is. But when the heart connects to other parts, like the third eye, we'll talk about this when we get to the Jaws one. But yeah, so I'm seeing a tie-in for like our own species, so to speak, evolution as our DNA continues to upgrade from all different forces that are affecting us right now as we get to the golden age.
Yeah, it's so good. It's good news for us collectively and good news individually too. I think we can each take a gift from this little bird. That's what I feel.
Yeah.
Okay, next slide, please. This is gorgeous. This, man, this is huge. I don't know the size of this, but it's big.
50 millimeters.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the wingspan is 50 millimeters.
So that would be 5 centimeters. So it's about like a wingspan like that. Is that right? Kind of like as big as your face, right?
Bigger than a locust then, huh?
It sounds like it. So I'm going to give a stab to the giant lacewing pronunciation. Stocotes punchata, the first of its kind, recorded in eastern North America in over 50 years. So this one's been presumed missing, presumed possibly extinct. However, it's back, and the first record of the species has been noticed in Arkansas. This giant lacewing was formerly widespread across North America. I've sure never seen it, but it was mysteriously extirpated from East North America by the 1950s. That's why. So it was before I was born. This discovery suggests there may be relic populations of this large Jurassic-era insect yet to be discovered. I mean, where are they hiding? That's what I want to know. If they're so big, why hasn't anyone seen them? I mean, they would jump out at you and someone would post a picture of it. So basically, this insect we covered the size of it, wingspan of about 50 millimeters. That's like 5 centimeters.
It's about little under 2 inches. So.
But that's huge for a lacewing. I mean, it's not a dragonfly, so people would be mentioning it, I think.
Yeah, and they found it at a Walmart in Arkansas.
Did you say Walmart?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's not in this part here, but yeah, it was in Fayetteville, Arkansas, Walmart. They found it.
That's interesting. I wonder what that is.
Yeah, it stood out to me because I actually worked at that exact Walmart years ago. We would travel to different Walmarts and make these custom plates or whatever, and I actually drove that one. It's only like a couple hours from Tulsa.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So we got something from the Jurassic era, basically, showing up at a Walmart. That is so surreal. It's kind of like Jurassic Park and having a dinosaur show up in the Walmart. This at least is not so scary.
Right. Yeah, pterodactyl would be a different thing.
Yes. And it seems like the message here is that no matter how long it's been, I know 50 years is what they say, but it's been gone 50, but it seems to indicate with just the fact that it came from the Jurassic era, it goes back that far. Its lineage has a nice long line. It's possible that we might see things coming back from quite a long time ago, as we've been seeing, like 10,000 years with the little clams off the California coast, and then these giant tortoises in the Galapagos, and so forth.
All right.
And you guys probably heard about that new statue they discovered on Easter Island that was on the bottom of a lake bed that dried out.
Yes.
That's fascinating too. Like
Yes,
those types of new discoveries being made, giving us more clues to our past.
Yeah, we're constantly witnessing this unveiling. And I think lacewings they feel like they're sort of an unveiling too. It's like they look like a veil, like a bridal veil. So there could be a message in this return as well. I'm not sure about the Walmart, but
it'd be interesting to see how they fly. Like if they fly like a dragonfly, because those wings seem like they have that characteristics where they could almost be creating its own type of anti-gravity scalar field around it, or if just the wings are so big, it doesn't have to flap them that quickly. So that would be interesting too, to see how it actually takes flight.
Yes, that would be really cool. Anything else on this one about any sort of Akashic read on it, message perhaps?
I didn't look into this one.
It reminds me of the white animals, so I think it's very much a protector. Feels like it's bringing a connection from our ancient past forward. Not sure what Walmart represents. Still not sure. But it seems like it wants to touch us. That's what it feels like when I tune in just right now. It feels like a touch from the ancient past to our most modern things that we might not be proud of necessarily. But just to know that our support is here, our lineage is here too. But we have ancient roots as well.
Yeah, and insects are known too to be telepathic. You can see it's the antennas that it has, like in this picture. So perhaps this could be a sign about our growing abilities as far as telepathy goes, perhaps a clue as far as that. And Walmart may be indicating like for the average person kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's different things you could, I'm just talking like off the cuff, but I'm sure there's things like that you can tune into.
Feels like that. Feels like average people will be protected in the coming changes that are here. Like, don't worry, don't freak out. It's going to be okay. That's kind of what I'm getting. The white, the transparency, the clear, the ancient, and then Walmart. Of all things. Yeah, that is like everyday life, everyday people. I think there will be change, but there will be continuity too. And Shane, anything else?
No, I was just looking on the chat, and let's see. Sage says, did the water dry up and expose it? And I want to say that they found it like on next to the wall, or like it had flown into the wall or something like that. So it wasn't in the water. It was like,
yeah.
And then Sage goes on to say, I feel like it's from Louisiana swamps.
Everything comes from Louisiana. Okay.
All right.
Let's take a look at the next slide. We have another sponsor, number 5. This is the Alderaan white-throated rail. And it's our second flightless bird of the program today. It's from the Indian Ocean. Doesn't look perhaps that special. To me, its head looks a little like a duck or something. But this small bird has big bragging rights because it has effectively evolved into existence twice after first going extinct about 136,000 years ago.
Like Abracadabra, huh?
Right?
Back again.
Yeah, that's interesting because abracadabra like literally means I create as I speak. And that's similar to another concept called tongue of the bard. And a bard would be someone like Shakespeare, so to speak. So is it possible, I'm just, again, talking in the future, concept called super manifestation, could we create as we speak? Like, can we do we cast spells with our words, so to speak? And I believe we do because of spelling. Once we raise our frequency to a certain level where we're responsible, like, is this something that could start to manifest in our futures? So as soon as you said that about abracadabra, that's the first thing that I thought of is that technology.
Yeah.
Very good. And I get that feeling too, moving in from the 4th world that the Hopi talk about, and I'm putting my hand over my heart chakra to the 5th, the throat. So to me, it feels like, yes, exactly. We'll go from changing things, healing. It's like we've been from the era of healing, where with our love, we can see amazing miracles, and then exactly moving into the throat. So we'll be hopefully safe with our responsibilities and recognizing that with great power comes responsibility, that what we speak into being is something that we would truly wish to experience for everyone concerned.
And it's another flightless bird.
It is. And then, scientists they had to take notice and pay attention to this when it's done this amazing magic trick of coming back into existence twice. That becomes a bit of an issue for scientists who, they have the official way that things evolve and transform and change. And usually if something goes extinct, they don't expect to see it again. Of course, on open tables, we do expect to see it again. But the official way that scientists and biologists have traditionally studied such things is that there's no mechanism for a bird like this to come back. So scientists have had to come up with some mechanism. And what they've come up with is that there are apparently parallel evolutionary tracks. So birds that can somehow snap back and be basically identical to the one that was lost. I don't think that it's really well explained. When I saw their explanation, didn't make a lot more sense than what we're saying, which is basically it just sort of quantum jumps or reality shifts or Mandela affects its way back into reality. They have a term for it, but it doesn't really, to me, cover adequately what happened here. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
No, I've actually thought about that before. That it seems like this would happen a lot more in evolution, where, instead of one line having these major jumps, wouldn't it just sort of happen over time? So even if the first one dies out, you'd still have another one evolve into being. So I'm really surprised we don't see more of this. Actually.
That's a good point, Shane. Yeah, we don't see this more. So then it kind of makes us wonder, well, then how do they explain that with their explanation? And I'm not an expert here in the biology of these extinctions and then evolutions and returns. So, but it's fascinating.
Very good.
It looks like a duck to me still, the face and the head. I don't know why.
It does look like a duck.
Yeah.
So that's a natra in Italian, of course. Anything you want to add, Chris?
No, I think I'm good for talking about the Alderaan, which is abracadabra, which is going to remind us of when we get to a slide about Star Wars, like there's another word that's like similar to that. So yeah. Interesting.
Okay, let's take a look at the next slide. We've got another sponsor, I'm sure. We do. This is the white Dungeness crab, and it's a singular example. It's got a name, sour cream. and it was caught off the Oregon coast, spared the dinner plate, and donated to the Seaside Aquarium, and that's where he picked up the name sour cream. And apparently this is another example of leucism, which we've covered quite often on open tables, not albino. So he's got the black eyes, not the red eyes. And so it's that genetic condition of loss or partial loss of pigmentation. And this is extremely rare. If you wonder how rare is it, this crab is 1 in 2 million or maybe 3 million crabs. So feels like, I think white typically feels like a protector. And this, to me, the ocean is the subconscious, so it feels like it's protecting the subconscious. And I'm glad to have it here off our west coast of the United States.
Yeah, that was my first thing, is thinking of the purity of white, specialness. And that's how they see it. They pick up all of these crabs, and of course it's standing out like a sore thumb, right? So they're like, oh, we got to capture this guy and give it to the Seaside Aquarium, and that's cool. Period.
Yeah.
Sour cream.
Yeah. So he gets to be an ambassador. So now he gets to interact with people at the aquarium, and really helping to make that connection. I think people feel something special also when we see these white animals, whether it's a squirrel or a deer or a crab. It kind of does something to my heart. I feel like there's that strong connection. Anything else on this little guy?
Not for me.
Okay. Let's take a look at our next slide. Oh, this is really cool. This is the Gypsy Vander horse, beautiful breed envisioned by the Gypsies of Great Britain. I'm not sure what they mean envisioned, if that was something that they bred for to be. I guess so, yes. The horse was selectively bred for over half a century from a vision to create the perfect horse to pull the Gypsy caravan. Okay, that's where it came from. But I've never seen these. To me, it's completely new. And now it says that 1996, the first Gypsy Vander horses came to North America, and the Gypsy Vander Horse Society was established as a registry for the breed. At that time, the breed did not have a name, so the name Gypsy Vander Horse was chosen because the breed was a gypsy's. And if you look closely at the picture on the right, what do we see there? A mustache. And I know you guys have, Shane, you said you've seen this before. I had never seen a horse with a mustache till Chris showed it to us and said, hey, is this new for you guys? And I said, absolutely. I don't know if this was bred, a characteristic that the Gypsies were looking for, or what the heck, but I mean, that's quite a mustache on this guy.
Yeah,
it's
and
not
it looks
subtle.
and it looks like they have what do you call the other horses? The Clydesdales that we have in St. Louis for bush deer that we see running around the city down there, and they look beautiful because they've got like the feet look kind of like these feet.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they've crossbreeded. Yeah, a lot of different breeds to get this particular one, but it looks like it actually has a little bit of that breed in it from the Clydesdales.
It does.
Not sure about the stash though. The stash. Where do you get with this mustache, Chris?
Yeah, you know what I was getting was that those fake disguises you wear with the big nose and the glasses and the mustache, like, oh, don't recognize me. That's the first thing I was getting. So like, I'm just gonna say this. So this is one of those funny things when I was tuning into it. I'm like, this information's coming through, but is there a sense of humor involved here? I don't know. So to me, it was like, I was tuning into it actually being like a disguise, like, don't look here. And then I'm like, a disguise for what? And the concept is that is it possible there are entities from outside our planet, outside this Earth realm, that want to have a front row seat to observe humans as we kind of go through this rough, rocky time into the golden age. And it goes to this concept called pay to play. So some of the people that watch my videos will know that I talk about player characters and non-player characters, and there's different divisions of player characters. I've never really spoken about the pay to plays, so to speak, but there's a way you can come in as an entity and perhaps go into an animal, so to speak, to like observe what's going on the timeline firsthand. And then I'm like, okay, all right, if this is true, like, where are these entities coming from? And I was getting from the Centaurus constellation. And I'm like, Centaurus, like a centaur, like half human, half horse. So I'm like, I don't know, I'm just going to stop right here because this is going to be like just too funny for people. But yeah, so is it possible that these horses with the disguise, don't look here, like I'm just a regular horse. See, I've got a mustache. Are doing that. And for a lot of people, like horses, like especially this Gypsy Vander breed, has always had a mustache. So for a lot of people, this isn't new. But for me, I was like, I used to, my family used to have horses. We had 2 horses. One's name was Gypsy, by the way. I didn't know it was a Gypsy
Oh my gosh.
horse, but her name was
Wow.
Gypsy. So I've kids going horseback riding, and I've never seen a mustache on a horse. And I saw a picture of the Toronto Police Department. One of their horses grew a mustache, and they were trimming it. And there was like a photo op where they're trimming the horse's mustache for the Toronto Police Department. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. If you're like an entity that's observing things, why not wind up in the Toronto Police Department? That would be a really cool experience. You could report home and tell your friends about. I was in one of the police departments. I was a horse in one of the police departments. So yeah, so it's a little funny, but I just wanted to throw that out there.
Very cool.
That is super cool. And you had a horse named Gypsy too. Wow.
Yeah. Gypsy and Cinnamon.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And that's such an interesting concept too, because it looks like when I'm looking at that face on that horse, it looks like he's kind of observing, like never mind me.
Right.
But
Yeah.
with a mustache like that, it's like, how can we not pay attention? This is amazing. Totally different. Wild. Anything that you're noticing, Shane? Any?
No, but I love the fact that, because it was named that because the breed was a gypsies, and your horse was a gypsy. Named Gypsy. That's.
Mm-hmm.
I love all the synchronicities. Beautiful.
Super, super cool. All right. So next slide, we'll take a look at what we've got. I'm not sure if we have another sponsor. We do. Little dragon. And Alicia Thompson, thank you for sending this in to us. We love it. It's a new gecko species. So this is a gecko. Usually when I've seen geckos, they don't look quite so spindly. So this little guy, his body does look like a dragon, his face. And this was discovered off Queensland Island. The name is Philurus Frumbriatus, the Scoffell Island leaf-tailed gecko. And so
it is a leaf tail, isn't it?
Yeah, so you're seeing a fringe of spines around the tail. And so that's where the name came from. Really interesting. And I'd never seen anything like this before.
Yeah, and I'm looking at a map of this Scoffell Island.
Yeah.
So it's off of Australia. So Queensland is one of Australia's territories. It's a very tiny, remote island. So I'm sure if they were hiding there for a while, whatever, but it's a brand new species that was discovered there. And I'm sure that people have been around that island for a long time. So again, have we moved into a timeline where they've always been there? Interesting thing to consider.
Well, it seems good to me to have dragons showing up on the earth. So I think that's a good thing, personally. I like dragons. I like unicorns, dragons. And to me, they symbolize creative energy. So the dragon, it's been recognized on every continent on the planet. It's very ancient. Thousands of years back, people drew and talked about or recognized the idea of dragons. They were not necessarily thought of as evil. So that was specifically more of a Western European thing. Typically, they have a connection to creation energy. And so it seems like at the dawn of a new world or the golden age, it makes sense to me that we'd have a little dragon showing up and saying, hello, ready to help. I can't see the color too well. It looks a little green. What do you guys think about the color?
Yeah, I love how it's really sort of matte, like it doesn't have any sheen to it at all. It seems like it's like really flat.
Yeah.
It looks like it could disguise itself well in the
It looks like, kind of flying under the radar. Another bit of a disguise thing happening. Maybe it's just the way it's standing there. It looks like, never mind me. I'm not really here.
And one of these small islands is just another one of those islands like the Maldives. I know we're all new, and we have all of these new discoveries on the Maldives. I'm like, the whole islands are new, guys. They weren't there on my map. So you got these 6-foot wingspan bats from that island. this could have been another one of those islands. I just wasn't privy to the, I need to go look and see if
That's a good
I got a
point.
word on it,
Yeah, let us know about the Scoffel
Yeah.
Island when you get a chance. That's a good point because I've never heard of this island.
Yeah, me neither.
But there are
Yeah.
lots of little islands. So.
And for a lot of us, my first manned animal was the flying fox, I think from Indonesia. And, it's this huge fox. I mean, huge bat. I'm sorry. That looks
Fox
like
bat, right? Yeah.
it's like the size of a fox.
Right.
So it's been making the rounds too on social media. Someone took a picture of a flying fox next to somebody's motorcycle, and the thing looks big. And excuse me, I have to cough for a second.
Yeah, we did have that. We had it on our show, I think. We had a picture of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this was a brand new photo that I had never seen before.
Right.
But basically, they have like a 5.5 foot wingspan. So, I mean, the average person is probably 5.5 feet tall. So they are pretty big. So, yes, have they always been there? Is that a mandan? For me, it was totally new. And, they're fruit eaters. They're not like vampire bats or anything like that. But when you find these new species, whether they stand out like the flying fox or like this new little gecko species, it all makes sense. It all kind of it's all part of the formula of the hypothesis of proving the theorem of what's going on with these Mandela effects and timeline merges.
I think that was our spooktacular episode, October 2022. We have that picture of the motorcycle and that bat, and it was incredible. So
Did
it was
we?
we did 5 months ago. But that might be a different timeline for you. So I'm just mentioning.
I know there's stuff I honestly don't remember. And then something that we covered before. I think that's happened to all of us. Like, didn't we talk about that before? And you go back,
Yes.
like, I don't know. So it gets confusing. Like what's happening. And, as our frequencies keep rising and we keep, going into higher frequency bandwidth timelines, it's natural for these types of things to happen. It gets confusing. And time is weird. Like just time is off. Like for me lately, time just goes by really, really fast. Like there's something off with time. So
like when you consider it's 2023, right? It's like, what? Wait, how did we get here? It's like we just zoomed forward or something, But I was thinking, more along the lines of like when we were talking about the big bats, like thinking it's a Mothman sighting or something, because we're talking like the size of a human there. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like if it's dark and that thing's swooping around, that would be pretty frightening.
Yeah.
that was totally new for me because I would have noticed bats you're right, they're like 5 feet tall almost. There's no way you can just not know about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we actually do have a couple more sponsors though. We had a lot this month.
Okay, yeah, let's next slide, please. We have the ghost catfish. This is
these are really cool here.
It looks like a rainbow. I mean, so it's allowing 90% of light to pass straight through its body, but when it moves, and sorry, we don't have a clip here, but if you find one online, you can sort of see as the fish swims. It's just amazing because that rainbow just shimmers, and you can also see at the same time. You can see right through.
Yeah, the one on the bottom is really good because you can see that you can't even see the rainbow iridescence in that very bottom one on the lower picture. The light's just passing right through it. And then if you read more into it, it's not actually the scales creating the iridescence. It's the muscles. The skin is super thin, and it's actually the muscles that's creating the iridescence. It's really neat if you want to look more into it.
Where does this fish come from? Does anyone remember? Ghost catfish.
I don't remember.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't recall.
I'm sure we could look that up real fast. I was thinking too, like, could the ghost catfish be like another clue as to what could be happening with humans in the future when it comes to light, so to speak, and these like the rainbow colors that it makes when the light passes through it. So there's so much going on with light. And are we seeing clues with animals, golden animals, clues to the golden timeline, maybe other animals giving us clues as to what might be happening with humans in the future? So it's all very interesting things to consider, but this was brand new for me. Like I have never heard of the ghost catfish before, like never. It's freshwater. So you can, if you have a freshwater tank, you could probably get them for your tank. But I had never heard of them before.
I actually had some that looked real similar to this when I was a kid, but they weren't transparent. So, but they were sort of iridescent looking in my fish tank, real little ones.
Because now we've got the technology of the invisibility cloak. People can put that over and it's kind of see-through. This animal is born that way. It's like see-through to begin with. Born with the invisibility cloak.
Yeah, and the way it reflects the light and the colors like that, I'm sure it throws off a lot of animals or, whatever its natural predator is. Looks like they're in Thailand. I'm not sure if they're anywhere else, but they live in fresh water.
Yeah.
75 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit.
So beautiful. It's likes warm fresh water. Nice. And the rainbow, of course, seems symbolic and very much a part of the new golden age as well.
Yeah, plus all the different, we covered it before, but all the different new types of rainbows, double rainbows, triple rainbows, superluminary bows, all different types of rainbows, vertical rainbows, things I never heard of before. So again, like these rainbows giving us clues to what's going on in the reality related to the human chakra system. When someone looks at a double rainbow, for example, you've got the two bands. The bottom band shows everything as we normally, the colors are as we would normally see them, starting with violet at the bottom and going up to red. In a double rainbow, it mimics the chakra system. It starts with red at the bottom and ends at violet at the top. And in between the two bands is all different colors. It looks dark. It's called the Alexander band. That's in between the two. So could that be a clue about what's happening with these double rainbows, about this inverted matrix, how we look at the world, so to speak, that things are starting to like flip, and then we'll start to be able to see more of the truth of what reality is around us. So all these things, we'll add the ghost catfish to our rainbow list of manned animals for sure.
Oh, I love
Absolutely.
it. This is awesome. Beautiful. Okay, anything else on this one? We're good. I think we do have one more sponsor. We have a bunch. White kangaroos. And thank you, Alicia Thompson, again for sending this in. Now, I don't know which month it was, but we did cover, I think, a singular white kangaroo that had been spotted in Australia.
Now we got a whole pack of them here, huh?
I know. I'm counting heads, and there's at least 6 of them.
Yeah, multiplying, yeah.
Right. And so this is the Australian Wildlife Sanctuary. And the rarity of these kangaroos is hard to estimate, although there are about estimated 42 million kangaroos in the country of Australia. But they cannot tell us how many of the white kangaroos there are. Judging by this photo, it looks like a whole bunch of them.
Apparently it's growing since we last covered this. So
yes.
That's a good thing. So thank you, Alicia, for bringing this to our attention.
Yes.
You have 42 million kangaroos. I wonder what the population of Australia is. Like, here, I'm gonna just type that in real quick.
See if there are more kangaroos than people.
I know.
Possible. These guys are kind of big too. I don't know if they're as tall as a person, but they get pretty big.
25 million is the.
So there are more kangaroos.
Yeah, for every human, there's 2 kangaroos.
Practically like, 2 to 1, yeah.
Practice close to that. So.
Wow. And these are strong protectors, these white ones. I don't know how many we have of the protectors, but at least 6 here. We've spotted another one somewhere else. That was last year. So got good protection for Australia. Yeah. I think we all need protection these days for just to know that we're safe, that we're making it through this transition, this upgrade that we're all going through.
Absolutely. It's beautiful.
Any Akashic read on any of this or anything else you guys want to add?
I was going to say too, definitely super protectors. Like when I check people, place, or thing, definitely a place, probably the territory that they're in, more specifically Australia or, wherever they're located. So Australia may need the help, and they're getting it with the white kangaroos.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love it. Anything, Shane? Or?
No, that's beautiful. That's it.
Yeah, I love it too. So now it's time for our, let's move to the next slide and we'll do our check-in for updates. Let's go ahead and start with you, Shane. You put these beautiful slides together. Oh, thank you so much.
No problem. Yeah, it was my pleasure. Not really a lot. I'm still doing my sessions. I've been working on music a lot. I've got some music videos in the works that I can't wait to get out. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You can find me on uotf.net. And for booking information, session information, you can find that on the contact page. And links to all of my social media and YouTube channel and everything you can find there as well. So.
And you do quantum kind of healings and sessions?
Yeah, beyond quantum healing, past life regression. And yeah, people get a lot of great things when they go within and connect with their higher team through their heart, through their own connection. So I assist people in doing that, and it can be a wonderful thing. And I enjoy it too.
And you've got a YouTube channel, so
yeah. Yep, I'm biased on the fence.
Okay, look, yeah, and you're good at creating content all the time.
Appreciate that.
Thank you. And Chris, what's new with you? Anything for the spring equinox or anything happening?
Well, I think, and I saw someone's comment too, like things feel different. Like especially today, things feel like a little lighter. I don't know how you guys are feeling.
Yeah.
So spring equinox was what, March 20th?
Right.
And you know how there's a Mandela effect? It always used to be the 21st.
I know. Yes.
Like Thanksgiving always used to be the third Thursday of November. Now it's always been the fourth Thursday of November. That same type of thing. So yeah, so I'm feeling like they're, you know, in a positive way, like the energies are changing. I feel that since the 21st, and then especially on the 23rd, tomorrow, 3-2-3-2-3, 3 5s. I think that's going to be like another important date that kind of like starts to flip us and get us closer to where we want to be as far as attaining to the golden age. I think that there's a lot of like kind of craziness, at least for the next couple of years, we're going to have to deal with. You can consider it the age of truth, where all these things that just don't hold up are going to like be revealed. You know, whether it's what the governments are saying or this propaganda or that propaganda, all that stuff is going to be revealed for people to start to like wake up. So for a lot of us, the Mandela effect like woke us up, boom, like right away. And then there's another group of people that I believe are going to start being woken up by just the realization that things that they always put their trust in have not been given their best interest, so to speak. They've always acted in their own interests. So with that said, personally for myself, I think in the next 24 to 48 hours, I'm going to be, maybe sooner, I'm going to be releasing my latest Symphony of Realities video. I call it Dream On, and I cover 10 different subjects in there. And some of the subjects I cover include the 2022 Nobel Prize in Physics, which I think, you know, we spoke about that before, super important. The universe is not locally real. Everyone should be talking about that, but I think it was really groundbreaking. I give an update on crystal eyes. Like there are all these statues with crystal eyes. Now there's like so many more. Why is that happening? I talk about the silver pharaoh with the silver tongue. His tomb was more valuable than King Tut's. And, you know, it's said, the global narrative says it was forgotten. It was discovered in 1939. It was forgotten because in 1940, World War II broke out. So everybody got distracted by World War II. But his tomb and all the objects in it were priceless. I never heard of them before. I talk about that as being at least a personal Mandela effect for myself. I talk about the Star Wars Mandela effect of Luke, I'm Your Father. I talk about the Mandela effect in the song California Dreaming, and I kind of tune into those hidden meanings about what that could mean. And the big thing I talk about is December 21st, 2012, and the Mayan calendar, and did something actually happen to us? So I kind of I go all over the place with that. From the start to the end is like high frequency information. So I'm really excited about releasing that in its totality. I've started working on my next one, which is going to be really interesting as well, like super interesting. So I recently changed my website, updated it, quantumbusinessman.com. Go there, check it out if you like. And yeah, so there's always something new. I'm just with my business, let alone the other work I'm doing at Quantum Businessman. I'm like, my dance card is packed nonstop all the time, 7 days a week. So yeah, that's my update.
And you still do? Do you still do? Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, like I talked a little bit more. Like I took Jerry's time slot. So
oh yeah,
thank you, Jerry.
And are you still doing some sessions? I know people were interested in that from you too. Can they schedule through your website, quantumbusinessman.com, or how does that work?
Yeah, so I put up more sessions for the month of March, and they all got booked. I only do one a week. I'm going to start to put some up for the month of April, and yeah, I just do one a week. So if you'd like to have a session, yeah, I'm meeting all kinds of really, really cool people with really, really cool abilities, and lots of dragons out there. So go dragons.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you very much. And you've got new videos popping up all the time. I can't even keep up with everything, but you've got these little mini-sodes that I think I really want to recommend people check that out. Quantum Businessman YouTube channel.
Thank you.
And Jerry, he's not with us this month, but he's with us in spirit, and he's busy, busy, busy. And I think hopefully we'll see him next month. I can't remember. I think we'll be able to, because I know he's also traveling.
Yeah. And find out more information at the riponrabbithole.com there on the screen.
Thank you. Excellent. And then my update, I think the best way to see what I'm up to is usually check my website, realityshifters.com. There's a news page, and if you don't subscribe, you can just see what I've done the last month. I'll post that update there. And I usually report the new Mandela effects and reality shifts that people are sharing with me, as well as some of the interpretations of what they might mean, questions and answers, all the interviews and videos that I've done. And then this last month, I just shared kind of a fun story about graduate school, where it's the only time in my life that I've ever turned in a final deliverable. In this case, the class assignment. It was our end of term project with 2 other classmates, and there was nothing to turn in. It was basically a report saying how we had failed to deliver on what we were supposed to do. And I got an A on it. So it's kind of a funny story. I think it's actually enlightening and uplifting, because what happened is I was doing data flow analysis, and I selected with my 2 classmates, Stanley and Susan. We decided we're going to take a look at what the university is doing here in the administrative department. So we did that. Or we tried to do that. They said we could interview them. Turned out they just kept deflecting and pushing us aside every time we came for the appointment that we'd next scheduled. And so all we had to tell when it was time to give the report to the professor in the class was the sole story of how we'd been deflected and sort of pushed away in all these different ways. And then we had a very small data flow diagram of guessing what's going on in the administrative office based on things we know go in, things we know come out, but it's basically a big black box. And it was so hilarious to our professor. He just started laughing and pretty much fell into the hallway. And I think that's how we got the A, because it goes to show that sometimes what you're here to do is not what you think you're here to do. And there could be something happening that's much bigger than what anybody expected. And I kind of love that message. I think that's really powerful for those of us experiencing the Mandela effect, especially in these changing times. So have hope, have heart, and whatever it looks like is happening, just stay close to your own truth and your own observation, your own heart, and your own connections. And you can navigate through this, and you might turn out quite well. I would love to just keep reminding people, keep asking, how good can it get? So that's kind of my update for the month. And my website, again, realityshifters.com. So.
Oh, I wanted to add one more thing. Yes. I thought it would be out by now, but HBO, How To with John Wilson. I was told that the new series will be out in March. It hasn't. I've been checking. There's no release date for it yet. So when it does come out, there's going to be one episode. I don't know how it's going to go. I don't know how it's going to go. Magic of video editing. But yeah, he actually came to my office and was asking me questions about the Titanic, which kind of threw me. I thought he'd be talking about, Mandela effects. So in any event, you guys might want to watch for that too. So when the series does get released, there should be an episode with me on it if I didn't get cut out of it. So
we can post it to our social media. We'll post it on like
Yeah.
YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. So so people can follow us there if you're not already, and we'll get that update out. I would love to hear about that. And that reminds me, Chris, right before that happened, I know Shane had been asking the question about the Titanic, and it was so bizarre. Like, what a synchronicity. We had that little conversation going about the Titanic.
Oh,
right?
in the Olympic?
Yeah, right before John Wilson came to see you.
I know.
It was like, whoa. So Shane, you're so tuned in, Shane.
Yeah. Yeah, all these synchronicities.
Wow.
Love it. And Shane, you've got a birthday coming, I think next week, roughly.
Yeah, March 30th.
Happy birthday.
Big 49.
Woo!
You gonna do something special? Or
Yeah, I don't really know what yet.
Surprise.
Yeah, I'll surprise myself with something.
Sounds good. Excellent. Let's go to the next slide. And we've got now this is where the program really gets traction. This is amazing. For this one, I think, Chris, you should tell us what's going on.
Yeah, so this one caught me maybe 3 weeks ago maximum, because this particular this is a poster that I literally, if you walk out my door here, there's a poster on the outside hallway of Remember Alderaan, and I thought it was a cool poster, so I bought it and put it up there. And I'm walking out one day and I'm like, I see 2 A's in the, like that. Those weren't there before. It was always Alderaan with 1 A, not Alderaan. So for me, that just jumped, right out. So if anyone was looking where the missing A from Haas Avocados went, it may have landed here. And I had always liked this poster because it reminded me of Remember Alderaan, which is one of the many places that one of my origins are from. And so it just kind of was always remember Alderaan or remember Alderaan. So what I did is I also watched the Star Wars clip of Darth Vader and Grand Moff Tarkin and Princess Leia, where Grand Moff Tarkin fools Princess Leia, name your target, name any other target. No, Alderaan is a peaceful planet. So I wanted to see how they pronounced it, but they pronounced it the same way as Alderaan. I wasn't sure if it would be Alderaan or some other pronunciation, but it's exactly, they pronounce it the way I remember, but the spelling is different. So I don't know if this is new for anyone as well, but it just popped outside my door. So I wanted to bring this to everyone's attention to get their input on it.
I haven't seen it spelled out much, so to me it's hard to know for sure, but that 3 A's in the word looks weird. So it seems like that would be odd. I haven't seen it in print much. Do you have any other residue, Chris, of other examples of the Alderaan spelling that you remember that are out there?
Not that I could think of off the top of my head. And then the other Mark Hamill, his last name, Hamil. It was always 1 L. Now it's 2 L's. And I'm like, what's this with these double letters? So even the actor's name for me has changed, because as a kid I would have Star Wars posters in my bedrooms. This isn't anything people what is he doing as an adult having Star Wars posters? I had Star Wars posters in my bedrooms, in the 80s, so to speak. Yeah. When The Empire Strikes Back came out, I was so excited. So yeah. So, but I don't, to answer your question, I don't have anything else, but I'm sure everything has switched to the double A.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's very typical. Well, it seems positive. It seems like an extra A. It's like me getting an A on that assignment when I didn't expect it. I thought we failed, so I'm just doing the oral report. And here's the sad tale of what happened. But maybe remember Alderaan is remember that you've already won. It's kind of like win first and then play. You can't play me, I am the game. It's taking a step back so you're a little above all of the conflict is what this one feels like to me. If I was reading the Akashic Records, I'd say, you know what, everything's fine. So you don't even need to struggle or fight as hard as you think. That just being who you are is automatically changing everything. There's a quality of presence and the observational ability of us as causal agents to exert far greater ripple effect change than most of us have any clue that we're doing. Your ripple effect is huge, Chris. So I think you've gotten an A from the universe.
Yeah,
That's what it feels like.
I earned an A. I earned an extra A. I'll take it. Thank you, universe.
That's what it feels like to me. Awesome.
Very cool.
Okay, let's go to the next slide. And this is really weird. Metal in the microwave, talking about the 80s. I think the 1980s, that was the first time, maybe it was the 70s or I don't know. I think late 70s, the microwave ovens came out. It was around then, late 70s, early 80s. But one of the big things that I remember, this is very surprising, is exactly what is stated here on the slide, that people were concerned. The one thing you never put in a microwave is what?
Metal.
Metal. And why not? Most of us heard, well, their sparks are going to fly, could be an explosion. It's not safe. Now, however, everything's changed. Shane, do you want to talk about this a little bit? Because you were looking this up.
Yeah,
yeah,
right. So it appears that you can put certain types of metals in the microwave now. And I've noticed with certain types of microwavable food now, they have, like if you get pizzas or whatever, the box will have sort of this metallic gray looking area on it that's supposed to help the dough get crispier or something. So it looks like it's kind of like sort of metallic, but it doesn't look as metallic as, say, aluminum foil. But this suggests that as long as it's a nice smooth with no edges metal, like a sheet of aluminum foil with no wrinkles or anything, that it can actually create a crispiness on some of your food items. So yeah, that's pretty strange. So I didn't know about this. I have seen the microwaves with the racks in them. I think the last time we went to buy a microwave, I was like, no, these are like toaster ovens or something. Like we got to go further down, right? So I think I walked by like half the microwaves because I didn't know you can have metal in them. So I thought they were like a toaster oven or something when I saw the metal rack. So
wow.
So yeah, this is strange, and it does appear that if you get the one with the metal rack, it's got to be on the little holders, the insulated holders on the side properly. So if you bump the rack and it gets crooked and it's touching the edge, it still can spark.
That's not safe.
Right. Exactly. So yeah, supposedly you can put metal in the microwave, but I don't know if I feel like it's a Mandela effect as much as I feel like people's played with it and they say, oh, well, you can sometimes in some situations, and just information has like increased on the topic maybe. But yeah, I remember never put metal in the microwave. Fork, spoon, anything. This says you can do a spoon, but not a fork. But I don't know. I don't think you can.
And Chris, you were saying you were experimenting with this.
So last night I did an experiment. I took a sheet of aluminum foil, just a regular sheet. I put it in the microwave. I've set it on high, set it for 1 minute, and after 10 seconds, boom! And I'm like, okay, metal in the microwave. I don't know. But they say that because the edge is what actually ignited. The electrons on the edge get so excited.
But did you just like rip it, or did you cut it with scissors? Did you keep it smooth?
I tore it off. I just took it. Okay. Probably turned out to be maybe 12 by 12.
So it had the zigzag cut from the cutter?
Yeah, it had the zigzag cut from the cutter. And and I could tell it was one of the edges that actually blew. But the concept now is that you can put the aluminum foil and wrap it in a certain way so that doesn't happen, and your food will become more crispy. And it's funny, there's so much conflicting information. So you look on the internet, never put metal in the microwave, and another site will say it's safe to put metal in the microwave. So even those takeout like aluminum trays you get, those are safe to put in the microwave.
We might want to say this: we're not recommending anyone put metal in their microwave. By the way, let's say this officially. So our official recommendation is do not try this at home, because we're just noticing things seem to have changed, and I would recommend caution.
I want to go to the chat. Autumn Guild says, I put a plate in the microwave years ago with a gold rim. I thought the gold was painted on, but after a couple seconds, there were sparks and the plate knocked around. And I'm totally with you on that. We had a set that had this sort of gold trim at the top. Whenever we put a bowl in there, it was our fine china. We didn't actually use it unless it was like, Thanksgiving or something. It was in the the display thing or whatever. But it had this gold trim on it, and I thought it was the same thing. I thought it was painted on there, but it was for real gold plated on the edge, and it would spark. It's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, I was gonna say, can you find that china now and put it in the microwave and tell us what happens?
Oh no, it would for sure spark. That wasn't all that. Well, I guess it's been 20 years.
I mean, I don't know. I honestly couldn't figure out if, like, by looking on the internet, if the gold would still spark. It appears that it would, but I don't know for sure. But it's worth it. Well, if you have enough house insurance,
Right.
it might be worth the playing around with it. But you take this, just the whole concept of buying a microwave with a metal rack is just kind of like what? Why not do like why does it have to be metal? Why can't it be like a microwave safe, like grill?
Right.
Why does it have to be a metal rack? Like, that's the other thing too. And you take this, and the other thing that blows my mind that's like somewhat related to this is the all of the new elements on the periodic table. So like in my old timeline, there were only 88 elements, and now I wrote some of them down. Krypton is the famous one, right? Krypton was discovered in 1898, and 0.0001% of our atmosphere is made of this element called krypton, and it's used in fluorescent lights. Superman fans, like, how come I don't remember that? That would have jumped out.
Right.
But there's another element called Einsteinium, named after Albert Einstein, discovered in 1952 after the first hydrogen bomb explosion. There's another element called californium. It was discovered in California. I'm sorry, I never heard of it. There's another one called berkelium, which was discovered at Berkeley. So for myself, like, what's going on with electrons, protons, and neutrons? For me, new elements. Could this be related to the quantum field? Could this be related to like how things are we're going into timelines, at least for me, where the quantum field is changing. The electron field within the quantum field, observer changes the observe, double slit experiment. Like, do all these things play in on part of a pattern to show us that things are actually starting to change? And we, if we are dreaming right now, does it mean that we're going to be able to like lucid dream and be able to have more of those manifestation type skills coming through? So it all started for me with metal in the microwave. And then so Cynthia, you're closer to the periodic table than I am. Do you remember Einsteinium and like all these new elements?
Yeah, the ones you're mentioning, because I live in Berkeley, and I was I did a substitute teaching thing just to help out at a summer program for the gifted kids at the UC Berkeley campus. That was a few years ago, and it was a chemistry class, and I was surprised at the number of extra elements beyond what I'd learned back in the 80s. So it seemed like there's a lot more. Some of them seem familiar, but like you said, krypton, I think I would have remembered that because Superman, kryptonite.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the Einsteinium, that's very interesting too. It's very memorable, but seems like something I didn't learn that when I was going through high school and college. And I would think I would have. So
yeah, they're old. They were added to the periodic table in like before we were born in 1952. That Einsteinium was added.
Right. And I loved that periodic table. When I took chemistry in college, I did really well because somehow it was easy for me to remember just looking at the chart. But now it sounds like it was a compressed chart or lacking many of the things that you would expect should be there. I mean, I was memorizing the flashcards so that I could do the kinds of, there'd be sort of a little, it's like math, kind of like you'd be putting carbon with hydrogen. And so you need to know how many, is it -2 or +1 and so forth. And then is it is the combination of these two elements, will it create energy or does it require energy to continue? That kind of stuff. So I was really into that. And so for me to be noticing this whole section of the periodic table was not provided to us. Like, why? Why would they leave that out? It doesn't make any sense. So to me, it looks like some epic level Mandela effect for sure. Especially when you're saying, and I've seen that too, these have been here since the 50s. Really? They just left it out of our books. Okay. I don't know about you, Shane. Do you remember any of that, or is it?
No,
This
that's
one.
all new to me. But have they added unobtainium to it yet?
Unobtainium?
Einsteinium. That's a
what
joke.
Nakaketa
Unobtainium.
wants to know. Yeah, that's what they found, and wasn't that the stuff in Avatar?
I think that's a joke. Unobtainium.
But I think
Very
that's
funny.
what they called the stuff in Avatar. The stuff they were.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that's like if you use that phrase, it indicates something is hard to find or impossible.
Right.
Unobtainium.
Right.
Funny.
Yeah, I caught the joke. I thought that was sort of the joke in the movie, though.
They have scientific joke books like the Journal of Irreproducible Results. So it's like it's a joke book full of studies that never happened, but they're hilarious. So you can't reproduce the results.
With punny
Yeah.
jokes and stuff. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. But by the way, have you guys heard that they've proven that diarrhea is hereditary?
What?
Why is that?
I'm sorry to laugh, but what?
Because it literally runs in your genes.
Oh no. Okay. Oh
Sorry.
my gosh.
That's your time.
Oh, boom. Okay. And
Moving right along. I mean, seriously though, that could be for some people that could be an ascension symptom.
Right.
Like your body, like literally cleansing itself. And I've experienced that a lot over the last probably 2 years, and I'm like, what is going on? I didn't feel like I was sick or anything like that. But so if anyone else has these like purging things that are going on, I think it's all part of what's happening. You know, as we talk about DNA upgrades, like these are all types of things to kind of clean us out, to get us ready as we kind of segue to the next slide, as we kind of move to that crystalline.
Yeah, next slide. Good.
Yeah.
Great segue.
Yeah. I wonder if it's running in these genes here.
Diarrhea.
Yeah, so Chris, do you want to, maybe you can just, you got the ball rolling here.
Yeah. So like the slide says, is it possible for humans to transition from carbon-based life forms to crystalline-based life forms? And you know, some people I'm sure that are watching our show have at least heard of this concept before. So you take carbon, you know, we're carbon-based life forms. Carbon is made of 6 electrons, 6 neutrons, 6 protons. It's a 666. So
oh my gosh.
Yeah. So is it
It's a man's number, 666, right?
Yeah. So I mean, and I think that's also a clue about what that book of Revelation and so forth may actually mean. You know, moving from beast mode to like another higher form. Not to say that we're beasts, but maybe in a way, the way that some of us behave are that way. Not all of us, but in any event, the concept is going to a crystalline-based life form, and DNA is already, the structure is already like it's considered a crystalline-based structure. So is it possible in the future that we're going to be going from 666 to a 616, which is 6 neutrons, I believe 6 electrons and 1 proton? So, you know, is this part of what may be happening? And it's funny too how in some of the Marvel, you know, I'll drag Marvel comics into this, but there's different Marvel universes and the Marvel multiverse, and you know, Doctor Strange and the multiverse of madness, that whole concept. And there's different versions of Earth. There's like an Earth 666, and then one of the ideal Earths I think is Earth 616, and then some of the other places I'm part of Earth 838, or whatever it is. So could there be some kind of soft disclosure, kind of a distortion of truth? But is there some kind of soft disclosure we can grasp from that as well? So all of these clues, everything from possibly the way the physics of the reality working with metal in the microwave, to new elements on the periodic table, to energy coming in from the sun and other cosmic forces and Schumann resonance vibration. Can all these things be having us go from the concept of Homo sapien to Homo luminous, which is more of a light-based thing, and as I'm talking, I'm having all these frequencies going off in my ear. So yeah, so it's really cool what the future, may be offering as far as humans being able to go to that next, kind of I'll call it evolve, but transition into like another level of what the original design was for a human. So I'll leave it at that if you guys want to comment on that.
Wow, I just love it. It reminds me a little bit of some of the books. Like before the show started today, I mentioned the Celestine Prophecy, and that's a book people might or might not remember, back from the 1980s, and it was really talking about this kind of an upgrade of humanity that will start basically becoming more telepathic, becoming more capable of doing things that may have seemed impossible before. Such as healing skills and abilities, the ability to see energy around trees and plants and people, and that there can be kind of an expectation of this sort of evolution. So it seems like this is a kind of predictive programming from a book. I think there may have been a movie made out of it. I'm not sure, but I don't think it. Oh, there was.
Yeah.
Do you remember it?
Yeah.
Okay, you saw that. Yeah. So there's. It feels like this is something that people have been expecting. And predicting, in some sense, that we're coming into our evolution of our light body to recognize officially that it's here. I mean, we certainly know that humans radiate light. I mentioned that in my book, Aura Advantage. It's measurable. And if someone walks in a room who's in a good mood, they emit more light than someone who comes in really crabby and cranky and angry. So those people can actually suck the light out of a room. No joke. But these kind of studies haven't really been part of our formal education, not in the past. And I would expect that going forward, these are kinds of things that we can bring analytical, rational, scientific inquiry right into alongside this expectation of something that sounds a little out there to some people, but to those of us who've experienced the Mandela effect, I think it starts making a lot of sense that some of us are front runners. We've been evolving that crystalline quality of ourselves. We're getting those upgrades. We know it when it happens. We can feel it. Like you're saying, Chris, I'm getting that kind of a download. We're meant to be receivers and also broadcasters of information. And we're meant to have the ability to care and connect with one another on a much higher level than we've done before. I don't know what to call it. Maybe it's not the beast level, but maybe, for lack of a better word, that 666 carbon form might be, it's an older version of us, and we're moving more into the more evolved, perhaps more, I don't know if it's silicon based, but there are other qualities of crystalline characteristics that are naturally part of our bodies and ourselves. And when we tune into it, we can feel it.
Absolutely. And I've definitely been experiencing some of the other things we talk about, like telepathy, without even realizing it. I mean, it's pretty much every day now that someone will say something and the other person's like, I was just thinking about that, or I was about to say that, or something along those lines. And so we're not consciously realizing it until something like that happens, but we're totally picking up on each other. I mean, I've seen it. There's no doubt in my mind about it. You've seen it too, Chris?
Yeah, that just happened to us today?
Yeah.
I forgot what we were talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Elon. Like I was just about to say the same thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That was in our green room. So if you want to hear about that, you can check out that on Patreon.
Yeah, and just to add to all this too, we already know that our bodies are getting updates. Like we know about the position of our heart being more centered, how that's better for us because the blood flows easily. They can now take our blood pressure on either arm. It used to be if you're having a heart attack, that always meant like, oh, the left side, like you get numb on the left side. That doesn't happen anymore. Like that's not a sign of a heart attack. The kidney, we'll talk about the kidneys too in one of the upcoming slides. Location of the kidneys. We're going to talk about the eyes, the cryptochromes in the eyes. There's just like all these different things that are, I don't see any of them as being negative. I see them all as being like positive things, like bringing us, like advancing us to, to show that something is literally changing. So we call them Mandela effects for the body, but they're also pretty big upgrades.
which brings us to the next slide. Let's bring that one up. Great segue. Now we've got apparently 3 kidneys. So is this new for any of you? Because it sure is new for me.
Right. So apparently we're actually born with 3 kidneys, and then 3 sets develop, but only 2 remain to become the permanent adult kidneys. So yeah, this is new for me. I had no idea, but I find it interesting that we'll get the other slide up in a moment, but the lower one is actually kind of down by where I remember them being.
I know. It looks like like the upper 2 are up there. Is this really the correct positioning? So there's like a bonus down lower, or was this just for? Makes me wonder how accurate it is.
Right, or if like which ones. So can we have an upper one and a lower one to remain, or
I don't know.
That's a good question.
This is all different from anything.
It seems
I've
like
ever heard of.
It's really new, I mean, even though it's always been that way, you know what I mean? With these Mandela effects, you can't find a lot of information on some of them right away,
Right.
Yeah, like I was actually experiencing that with this. I was mentioning before about the silver pharaoh of Egypt, like one of the most valuable finds ever, in Egyptology. When I first started researching it, I couldn't find anything, like hardly anything online about the silver pharaoh. And then I'm looking, and then like a week later, I found out, in 2012, PBS did like a special about it. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I tried to buy it. I bought it online on Amazon. It came in. It was a corrupted CD. I couldn't play it or anything. And then later, I actually found it like on YouTube, so I didn't even have to buy it. But like it's almost like when we go into that timeline, all these things have to kind of catch up, so to speak. I almost feel like somewhere out there they're editing Wikipedia pages or whatever concept you want to look at to like reflect what the reality is. So this thing with the kidneys is like totally, I had never heard about this before. And what happens to the 3rd kidney? Does it just dissolve and go away? Like, I don't know. So,
Right.
and it is interesting too about how, and actually I'm on the 3rd floor of this office building where the 1st floor is a kidney dialysis center, and they do surgeries and stuff like that.
Wow.
When they like do a kidney transplant, they literally don't touch one of like one of the defective kidneys that are up near the heart in the lungs. They don't touch those. They actually add a 3rd kidney into your intestinal cavity, and that acts as the filter. So people that have kidney transplants literally have 3 kidneys, and the other one is in that position that they're showing in the embryo.
What the heck?
Yeah.
This is all new to me. This is the whole thing.
That's amazing. Yeah.
The 3rd kidney. Wow. So but usually only 2 remain to become permanent adult kidneys.
Yeah. One thing too is like different organs of the body are different, like emotional centers, and the kidneys represent fear. So you hold fear in your kidneys. So that could be another clue, especially with all of the fear programming, that the global narrative is pushing on us. If it's not one thing, it's another. Like wait a week and you'll be afraid of something else. The bank's collapsing, or World War III, or whatever it is. There's like literally something new all the time to keep us in that state of fear. And could that be a clue related to these 3 kidneys and how the kidneys can hold fear inside of us?
Very interesting. And the numbers 3 to 2, that's interesting too.
Yeah, by the way, that silver pharaoh, I call him the silver pharaoh with the silver tongue. So when I was reading his Akashic records, I say he has a silver tongue because he was actually able to somatically release someone's trauma from their organs just by his speech, just by the sound of his voice. And his kingdom grew and prospered. He had no enemies. And if he did, all he needed to do is talk to them and they become the best of friends. So, and they have that release, crying, somatic, and then they feel super, super good. Yes. So, so having somatic releases, kidneys, I'm trying to think of a segue to the next slide, but.
Well, this is pretty good, actually. We can go just next slide. Yeah. This is on the same theme of human upgrades, natural human evolution. Humans now have a magnetic sensor in our eyes And basically it's cryptochrome, which is new for most of us. Like, I think all of us here today, it's new for me. New for you too, you guys? Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
So this is
Yeah,
the
I'd heard of the the rods and the cones in the eyes, but not anything about the
I
cryptochrome.
want to take a moment. Thank you for the
Yes,
the
thank
chat.
you.
Really appreciate it. Much
Appreciate
appreciate
that.
it. That's
Thank
from Fa Q.
Sorry, that's a funny name. Sorry.
Yeah. So
Stop.
this cryptochrome is an ancient protein with versions in all branches of life. In most cases, these proteins control daily rhythms. Humans, for example, have two cryptochromes, CRY1, looks like Cry1, and Cry2, which help to control our body clocks. However, researchers found that Cry2 can double as a magnetic sensor. And this is the kind of thing that I've been tracking when looking for macroscopic examples of quantum phenomena in everyday life. You might wonder, why would I look for that on the trail of reality shifts? And what I noticed is that birds, or aviators, natural avian flyers, they've got built into their bodies this sort of a magnetic receptor. And it's basically working under a very quantum property so that it can sort of sense the way that the Earth's magnetic field is based on things that are inside their head. It looks like we've got something very similar, which means that humans naturally have the ability to be able to tell north from south without a compass or any kind of a tool, because we've got it built in. At least we have the potential for that. So,
Hey, shout out to JD Peterson for the $10
oh, thank you.
Thank
Super
you.
sticker.
super sticker.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for that.
Thank you,
Really
JD.
appreciate it. So it makes me wonder if we've got these magnetic sensors in our eyes and we see these light beings or shadow beings out of the corner of our eyes, we could actually be picking something up slightly. That once we look, because the way the rods and the cones work, we get the most color like right where we're looking at. And if you've ever noticed that if you're like in a really dark room, it's almost like you see better out of your peripheral vision than exactly where you're looking. So it's almost better if you look away from right where you want to see in the dark.
Right.
Because that's where the concentration of the color cones are and the rods are around the edge. So it makes me wonder if you've got these Cry2 cryptochromes closer to the edge, then you would tend to see the magnetic sensory input from your peripheral vision, which is kind of how I see orbs and shadow and light beings sometimes, which I think
exactly. And off camera, before we started today, I also mentioned that I'd seen something out the window, which it was definitely my first time I've ever seen like a centaur. And it sounds like an imaginal being, but I was just looking out the window, and my daughter was playing a song about the forest and so forth. Anyway, there was a very happy centaur, very shy, happy centaur out there. But it's that kind of thing. When you see something from the corner of your eye, maybe this has something to do with it. I think you're onto something, Shane. Like orbs, definitely. And sometimes flashes of light. Do you guys see that?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, what do we actually see the visible spectrum? Like not even 1%. It's like 0.00235%. Some really low number. We're literally blind. Like we're literally blind to what's going on around us. And with these magnetic sensors in our eyes, which for me, they're new, could that somehow be related to Earth and the magnetic field of Earth changing? And we know that the Earth's magnetic field is weakening, but maybe it's actually going back into balance the way it should be. So if anyone starts to see things like out of the corner of their eyes, or actually their third eye starts to open more and they're more aware of what's going on around them, those things have always been there. So like now you're starting to see them. So
right.
Yeah, there shouldn't be, I don't think there should be fear involved. But
this could be, I like you're kind of going in a direction, Chris, that makes it sound like this could be a total upgrade too. Like the whole 3 kidney thing, or the heart suddenly in the center of the chest. Maybe the cryptochrome is also that kind of upgrade. Is that what you're getting at? That we can start to expect to see more high sense perception. And we've all been receiving these upgrades in that sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, I could totally see it. So it's like the hardware's there, so to speak, you know what I mean? And it's just needing to be turned on, or maybe the effect of the Earth's magnetic field weakening will maybe allow our sensors in our eyes to work better. Like maybe it's like hampering that. And as it decreases, it could be an ability that comes online that we were unaware of until it happens. So it's exciting times. Definitely getting upgrades, I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is an area I'd like to follow up on, see what else we learn. I have a feeling we're just getting the tip of the iceberg here with the cryptochrome, and I think there's going to be a lot more here. That's my sense. So I don't know what you guys are feeling, but I'm totally getting that.
Yeah, I think we have more to come here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Seeing new colors, just observing our world in a different way than we've always been. Kind of like on a lower frequency, we just were never able to see those things. And then at a higher frequency, things are changing, our body's changing. We're just going to see more of the world around us.
Yes. Excellent. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Take a look at we've got another moonraker. I don't know if we covered this. It seems like we touched on it before, but now we've got something new. A couple things. Yeah.
Yeah, a couple things. Like first, look at Jaws, right? Jaws from if anyone doesn't know, Moonraker was one of those James Bond movies. I believe it came out in the 70s, starring Roger Moore, and the villain was Jaws, and he had this mouth full of metal. Look at his forehead. Like and you can look at like all the pictures of him. He has that same hematoba or whatever that type of thing is, like in the forehead. So I'm like, what is going? Like I've never seen that before on this character. And so the first thing that I was tuning into is that could this be related to our third eye? And for some of us, as our hearts are coming more online and our hearts are more connecting into our brain and I think it's the right ventricle, but there's a process where we might start to feel pressure in our third eye area because our third eye is beginning to like awaken and our body's trying to handle like, hey, what's going on up here with our pituitary and that part of our perception. So could this, the way Jaws looks now, be an indication of that? And Jaws is kind of like, he's the villain, but maybe he's also represents the stereotypical macho male kind of a person. He could pick up heavy objects and throw them, and instead of like he destroys things with his mouth, like he bites on them, and that's his thing. So there was one point too, I was reading like from one of the solar flares we had a few weeks ago, kind of like around the time I noticed this, like there was energy coming in that was helping at least the masculine be able to evolve their intuitive abilities. And some of that has to do with the heart. So our heart's coming online, which is starting to make other parts of our body come online as well. So it's something to consider. I don't know if the Jaws forehead thing is new for anyone else, but it was new for me.
Yeah, totally. And it's so prominent, isn't it? At least from this picture here, it seems like it's quite a noticeable protuberance. It really sticks out. It looks like it's half an inch tall in front of the rest of his forehead almost. That's huge. I don't remember anything like that. And it's not like a Photoshop picture, I take it, right? I mean, you have to be careful these days that somebody hasn't tampered with the photo, but it's a very big difference. And I like your take on it, Chris. I like the connection that you're making with the masculine becoming more intuitive and the whole third eye. It feels right. It feels like there's a clarity of the observer of recognizing as we become competent at recognizing that we are observers, and by observing we are creating. And this is the power of bringing that kind of sentience into the material world. It feels like that's the kind of thing we could look for. I wasn't expecting to see it, but it totally fits.
That's wild. And let's get on to Dolly here.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, this one's weird.
Yeah, so this was real weird. So when we first cut this one up, I was looking at videos. I found a video. I'm like, oh yeah, she's got these braces on there. then as I started looking more and more at the different DVDs, I can't find it anymore. So I don't know if it changed right in the middle of it or what. But the one that actually had the brackets, like we see here in this picture, people weren't even talking about it in the comments below the video. It was like they were talking about how she didn't have anything on her teeth. I remember braces and all this stuff. So I'm not really sure where we're at with this one, if it's shifting in the middle. But the last one I watched of someone playing the VHS tape no longer has the braces. So I don't know what to think about this. Maybe somebody can help us out there.
Yeah, let's see what people remember.
Yeah, I was just going to add to this. Like, this one jumped out at me because in this new Symphony of Realities I'm going to release video, clips of the movie, she's got brackets, which is kind of weird. Brackets on her perfect teeth. Like, so right off the bat, a lot of us remember she had full-on braces. It wasn't just brackets. It was the actual braces that she had. So when you go online to look for pictures of Dolly, the brackets, I can't find any. It could change. I haven't checked today. All the pictures of her don't show any brackets. She's got clean white teeth, and they're from different sources. I don't think someone's gone and photoshopped all these different things. But when you play the movie, she definitely has the brackets. So again, is this shifting timelines? Is there something going on with this? And I also noticed something related to this, related to Marilyn Monroe. So in her famous beauty mark, and people get something called the Monroe piercing, which is above the left lip. I always remember that's where, like, Marilyn Monroe, that's where it was, right?
Yeah.
But now it's like on her cheek, on her right cheek. Some things have it on her left cheek. So some people have, and there's no more I could find above her lip. And it moves in different positions. So some people have hypothesized that she never had a beauty mark. She just would paint one on. And there's actually movies where, again, the stills of the movie show it on one location. And when you watch the movie, it's on another location. So it's, I'll get more frequency. Frequencies are so loud right now. Something's going on. So basically, there's something going on related to these Mandela effects and the movie versions of them, the still photos of it, the shifting timeline. Timelines is almost like they're in a state of flux right now. It's not stable. Be careful out there, kids. But yeah, you don't know what you're going to experience. So it's really interesting. And by the way, I'll just add one more thing about beauty marks and moles and stuff we have in our body. A lot of times, some of us might be observing I never had a beauty mark there, or I never had a mole there, or now I have a pattern on my arm that was never there before. And I've been noticing that for myself. So what does that mean? And when you tune into that, that could be signs of, sometimes they could be star maps. Sometimes it could be the constellation that you're from, and your higher self or divine source is trying to give you a clue about things. So even on our own bodies, we might start to notice these things that we've never noticed before. So keep that in mind as well. Our bodies are also, our organs are changing, and externally, we can also notice things on our skin and so forth. So all this gets really, really super interesting when you start digging into it.
Love it. I love all the what you're saying about be careful out there. But I think the real message is just be open-minded, open-hearted, and recognize that when things change, it's okay. This happens. So, but you're right. You don't want to take things for granted and then find out it's different, because that totally is happening. And I think what you're describing with Dolly, case in point. I mean, there's so much change going on, and that Marilyn Monroe beauty mark thing, that's wild. Love it.
Yeah, and it's almost like how some of the Mandela effects go back, the famous Flintstones one. The other one was Chick-fil-A. That I don't even know how many times that one's
gone. Flip-flopping all over the place.
Yeah. I mean, Houston, we have a problem. Or Houston, we had a problem. There's so many of these things that are kind of flip-flopping back and forth. So are we in a little flip-flop zone before we stabilize more? So keep your eye on Dolly. Big clue. See if those brackets come off at some point.
Yeah. And the teeth are interesting, because in a dream symbol, and this is a dream, so if you look at just interpreting the dream symbol of teeth, that has to do with the way we kind of grab onto something, chew on it, really cogitate and think about something. So when you put your teeth into something, you're really thinking about it. So these messages from both Dolly and Jaws are helping us to pay attention to this. So it's a real big spotlight on, just watch the way things are changing. Tune into this high sense perception, especially related to third eye.
Yeah, and teeth are literally like what I talk about teeth being time crystals. They actually are a marker in time. So any kind of food or anything that passes over your teeth are always recording. So teeth, time, timelines, like it's all connected. So that's just like another element to like what is going on right now in this reality. We're on it. It's keeping us on our toes, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Let's move on to the next slide because we've got another cool one here. This is the dwarf planet shift. And how many dwarf planets do you remember? Oh my goodness, not this many. I don't even think there were 7 this is a lot. I don't know how many this is on the page, but how about you guys? Do you remember this many? I mean, Pluto, that was one of the planets for me. So I wouldn't even put it in the dwarf planet category because to me, it's always been a planet. Maybe it's biased because I was raised knowing it was one of the, the planet that was farthest out there. But now, apparently, it's one of these dwarfs. So how many do you guys remember? Shane, do you remember any?
Well, I didn't really know about dwarf planets until they made Pluto one, and I just remember them saying that it's going to join like a few other ones. So for me, it was just maybe a handful, 4 or 5, when I heard about, Pluto getting booted out of the club. But before that, I didn't even really know about it, but there was certainly not a dozen or whatever it is now. And definitely want to do a shout out for Rocky the Flying Squirrel. Thank you for the $20. Thank you for doing this work.
Thank you.
And Siren for the $5 donation.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
Says the original series Quantum Leap was one of my favorite shows. Actor Scott Bakula has a spot of gray hair in the front.
Wow.
Scott Bakula.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Used to be, there's a Star Trek Enterprise. Sorry, I'm a Trekkie here. Yeah, one of the series on Star Trek was called Enterprise. He was the captain on that one.
Interesting.
Okay. So is that spot new for you? Was she saying it was a new spot?
The new hair.
I'm gonna call up Scott Bakula. I didn't know about this.
I not noticed this either. So a change in the hair. Interesting.
I mean, I'm looking at older pictures of him.
Uh-huh.
I'd have to probably look at a specific picture, but he either has blonde hair or gray or dark brown or brown hair or gray hair. I don't see a spot, but I could be wrong.
Interesting.
Yeah, but just getting back to those dwarf planets. Okay, not more than 6 months ago, I was researching dwarf planets. I was scouring the internet for information about them. By the way, one of the dwarf planets, the closest one to Earth, is not on here on this particular one. I think it's called Ceres, Ceres. It's in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. But what came across my feed was the dwarf planet called Hamaye. I don't know how to pronounce it, which is the one in the top center. Astronomers have found that it has rings around it, and those rings should not be there. They don't know how it's possible that a planet or a dwarf planet like this actually has rings. It's an egg-shaped dwarf planet. So when I was looking online, I was also getting different answers. There's 12 dwarf planets. There's 16 dwarf planets. So, and it's not like they were just discovered. Like these were discovered like at least 20 years ago. If you start looking them up, like Maki and all the other ones that are out there, they were discovered like in the early 2000s, like 2002 or in the 90s. So these are like not new discoveries. So I had never, to me, it's like, where are we? What universe are we in now? So these dwarf planets are again giving us a clue that our reality is changing. And what about these rings around the planet? Because now we have Jupiter has rings, Neptune has rings, like all these other planets have rings that I never knew they had. That to me, that was the Mandela effect from a while ago. So things in the night sky, in what I call the holographic projection field, however you want to consider what you're seeing, never did I realize there's so much going on there, that we're in a timeline where there's a lot more information that I just had never heard of before, and these are not new discoveries.
Yeah, it's like right there with the new elements on the periodic table. And I love how just recently you were looking this up. That's wild. And now it looks like there's 11 on the screen plus Ceres, which perhaps should be included. So the question, how many dwarf planets do you remember? This is a good one to kind of track the changes as we move through them.
Exactly. Yeah, there's a lot going on in the solar system. And how many more are out there that we don't know about?
Right. And with rings too. That's wild, because I was expecting that the larger bodies would have the rings. You'd expect like Saturn, of course, has rings. But this is a dwarf planet with rings? Amazing.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm looking at the headline now. It says dwarf planet, I'll spell it Quaoar, QR, hosts a ring that shouldn't be there. And then that other planet that I mentioned also has rings. But Quaoar, is that on? Okay. It's
at the bottom. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
When you say it shouldn't be there, what do you mean? It's
the ring shouldn't be around it, you're saying?
The gravitational field, however that's calculated.
Because it's got too small of gravity. There's no way that there'd be a ring.
Right, like how is it collecting them there without that?
That's exactly what I was going to say. That's why.
Because only our biggest planets even really have them, right?
Right.
Yeah, and what are rings of a planet? What do they represent? I know there's a representation for that as well. I've heard people talk about
like halos.
Halos. I've heard people talk about they're like a protection for the planet. So to me, this one hit me pretty hard, especially too because my son was in a science class. One of the questions was, name the 8 planets. So of course he knew what they were, but I'm like, how come your science teacher doesn't talk about the dwarf planets? And he's like, well, I know Pluto is a dwarf planet, but I'm like, what about all the other ones that are out there? So I told him to tell a science teacher to tell him about all these other dwarf planets, because they should be included as well. They should all be memorized. And all their names are interesting too. A lot of their names are based off of Greek mythology, gods, goddesses, those type of things. Are these just random names, or could they also be a clue as to what that planet is representing? So the names of the planets are very interesting as well. So all of these things have to be considered.
This is super interesting. Anything else, Shane, that you want to add to all of this discussion?
No, nothing else for that.
Keep an eye on the dwarf planets. And it's a lot more than 7 dwarves. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, we got a couple slides today about retrocausality, and it is important because let's just describe what retrocausality is. That's the idea that when something we do now can affect something in the past, also something in the future can affect right now and the past. And so you can think of this along the lines of praying that loved ones are among the survivors of something that just happened recently, some disaster like a shipwreck or an earthquake or something. So if you're wishing for something to go well, for something that's already occurred, then that's a part of you that acknowledges that this can actually happen. And this idea is really gaining ground and a lot of support from physics having to do with the ideas of entanglement and non-locality. And they're said that those 2 qualities of quantum physics, entanglement is the idea that you can have particles that are kind of, they move together even though they're separated across great distances. Non-locality and entanglement go together that way. And those are said to, in the past, to have threatened Einstein's notion of special relativity. However, scientists are now joining the bandwagon for retrocausality, and they're saying that the reason Einstein had a problem with it is because he hadn't considered the idea that there can be these reverse time effects. And there's nothing in any of quantum physics anywhere that denies that the future can affect the past. In fact, it's built right into the equations that you would expect that it would. It's to the point that one of the physicists named John Kramer, he's the father of this idea of it's a transaction interpretation. It's like a handshake between the future and the past. And he believes that explains quantum physics. And it's perfectly workable theory. So next slide. The reason this really matters for us in the Mandela effect community is that this retrocausality allows wiggle room. And it does so by, I need to describe something about Alice and Bob. They're talked about quite a lot in quantum physics. So these hypothetical characters, Alice and Bob, are both receiving some sort of quantum, there's a quantum source of particles and information reaching both of them. But the way that Alice receives the information always has a correlation, some kind of mysterious connection with the way Bob receives it, and vice versa. And they could be light years apart, and that's always going to be holding true. And so what's happening is there are these hidden connections, basically, throughout the universe. And so when we look for evidence of retrocausality, we can find it with that recent Nobel Prize. That's one way to interpret it. There are a couple of other interpretations. One that Chris mentioned, some people are saying that non-locality has been destroyed. And some people are saying that, that it's actually decimated the entanglement part of it. But actually what's going on here is we don't know for sure. And retrocausality is still a strong contender. If it is, then that means that decisions and influence from the future can absolutely be affecting things in the present and in the past. And why does this matter? It matters if we're bringing back the dodo bird, for example. It doesn't matter that it's already gone. We know that we can have that kind of influence. And one thing I love about retrocausality is it preserves free will. So it's something that's not lined up with determinism at all. Retrocausality is basically saying we, the observer, at some future point, can affect, the past. Absolutely. There's a lot more to be studied here, and so I'm just mentioning it, sort of an up-to-date report that the news flash is lots more scientists are starting to seriously research retrocausality. It's gaining a lot of scientific supporters for it, and that's a good thing. So we can expect to see more in this field in the future, and perhaps in the past as well.
Do they have a name to describe, Cynthia, like if you've got like determinism from like one standpoint, as if like say we are playing out a DVD, a movie of our life, and we have free choice within the movie, as if we're watching the movie and we don't know what's going to happen, but maybe there's a higher realm where the DVD is complete and the time only exists within the DVD and not on the higher realm. Now, of course, from within the game, everything is free will, right? Nothing's been determined yet. But is there a level or is there a name for someone who thinks like that?
Man, you're right. You're after my own heart, Shane. That's exactly the way I see it. Now, in physics, they are not yet looking at levels of the observer the way I think they should be. And the way you're asking the question, I agree with you. They should. That's exactly it. I love that. To me, when I meditate, that's what I experience is levels of conscious agency. And it goes as you get up and closer to source, closer to God, creator, source, then time becomes infinite. You've got infinite and you've got like timelessness because there are no events happening. Like you could also say everything's happening everywhere all at once, like the movie.
Right.
That God point of view is very different. And you can meditate and reach it by going into stillness, stopping all events, just slowing it down. And then when you come out of that, your experience of time can be, it's like you get reacclimated to the crazy stuff that's happening in these realities as they keep shifting and all that wiggling is happening. But long story short, I agree with you. That record that you're looking at, the events that are unfolding, we do have free will. Everybody has free will. But there's also kind of a veil of forgetfulness that occurs when we're at the denser levels of reality, the lower levels. As you go up, then you recognize we've always had free will. And so this is that Zen koan of how it's possible that there can be both, the sense of destiny and free will. They coexist with one another. and we're very much part of it. But it's not part of physics just yet. It should be, but they've been dodging that one. They keep trying to avoid the observer altogether, which is a mistake, clearly.
Seems like it would be hard to do. It's kind of like observing the outside of your car while you're driving it. You know what I mean? It's like
Right.
And it's kind of like that with the Mandela effect. It's almost like we need to get to this other level because we're like going to be affected by the Mandela effect from within the game to see it more clearly of how things switch. You almost need to be out of it. That's
Right.
what almost seems like it. If someone's changing it, they couldn't be in it or they'd be affected by it, right? It's like
You've gone to the jugular on this one too. You're just nailing it right to the bullseye. Yeah, the bullseye there is it, are we in a closed system or an open system? And quantum physics requires, that the observer has an effect, but it's like it makes it almost impossible to maintain the closed system that we need, because where's the observer? You can't have it in the closed system. And physicists love a closed system. That's what Newtonian physics is all about. That you can have everything. We're just observing it. We're not affecting it at all. We're able to just observe without influencing. But obviously, we're having an effect.
right.
So
Absolutely.
perfect. Great.
Yeah, and I'll provide some input here. I'm gonna go sideways a little bit, so bear with me.
Perfect.
But yeah, so the Earth game is this literally a type of like game that we're trying to advance to be able to get to the next level. So in gameplay and even in our lives, let's say our higher self, our divine source, is it possible they could at certain points save the game? Like, just like if you're playing a regular video game, you might get to a certain point like, oh, I like how far I've progressed on this level. I'm going to do a save game. And then I'm going to start going forward. And oops, if I made a mistake, I could stop that and loop back and begin the gameplay again from where you left off. And I've been actually, got stuff tingling on my head now. I've been tuning into this a lot, that there are actually these types of things we don't even realize. So we could have situations within our bubble of reality where our divine source might be like, I like where I saved the game, but advancing forward, there were some mistakes that were made. We can make that better. So let me stop this game and let me go back and let me start to do the things to influence my avatar to maybe handle things a little bit differently, get to another point, and then you save the game again, and then you continue to advance. And like, how many times can you loop and go back and back and back? So could that be like another angle to retro causality, where we are actually like going back, and if there's anything that we can do to influence the outcome, we could try to attempt that, and then it could work, it doesn't, and then maybe you could try again. So how does the gameplay work, so to speak, in this reality that we're in? So just another, because you guys know, like I'm the person that talks about the stuff that's way out there, but like another angle to what could be going on. And I believe too that when you gain enough authority in this aspect, you can remember, like when the game loops back again, you'll remember, almost like Groundhog Day. Like Bill Murray was always remembering like what happened, every day from the start, and he kept correcting his mistakes. Like, oh, he made a lot of mistakes, so he kept correcting his mistakes all the time. So could that be until he got it just right? The girl that he has a crush on falls in love with him. He says all the right things at the right time, and blah blah blah. So could this be like another angle of how retro causality plays into the effect of what's actually going on, and how you don't? I think Einstein said like speed of light is the fastest that 2 points can connect, but I think that the Nobel Prize winners have shown that, and other experiments and so forth, it doesn't make any difference. 186,000 miles per second, two particles can be anywhere in the universe and coexist with each other. So can we use this at the casino? I don't know. There could be like other uses for this type of concept, but it's really fascinating to talk about and like kind of like bring out all these different aspects of what could be going on here.
And I'm going to say something quick, because just to respond, that was really interesting, because when you bring up I never thought of it this way, but That movie with Bill Murray and Groundhog Day, it reminds me, it's almost like a soul trap. You had Howdy Minkowski on your show, Chris, and I had someone ask me to please watch that episode and answer my take on, is reality a soul trap or is it a school? And I never even thought of the whole thing with Groundhog Day, where he just keeps going back, and this idea of freeze framing, can you use retrocausality that way? Absolutely, it seems possible. So if it's possible, must be doable. And then I don't know what you'd think about this idea of soul trap and school and Groundhog Day and this retrocausality. I'd love to have a little conversation on this, and you too, Shane. But let's start with Chris.
Yeah. So
well, before we move on, I wanted to talk about the what were you talking about before Groundhog's Day?
Freeze frame. Like freeze.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was going to mention that there's a movie called The Discovery with Robert Redford that came out in around 2017. And when I watched that movie, I don't want to ruin anything for anybody, but check it out. It's really cool, especially if you like the Mandela effect. Go check it out. But that movie actually made me wonder if what you're saying, Chris, about, I call them checkpoints, right? Because it's like you get to a certain point in the game and then you got a checkpoint. If you screw up, you'll just go back to the checkpoint rather than start all the way over. And I think that could account for some of the deja vu we experience or the premonitions we've had. I know many people have had these. Like, I was sitting at a traffic light once and something just told me not to go. And then somebody blows through the intersection. It would have like killed me and my kids, you know? I mean, they were like really going fast. It's like, what told me not to go then? Is it because I'd done it 3 times before that and somewhere deep inside me I knew it? Or was it maybe God telling me in that moment, like, wait, you're something along those lines? Because that kind of gets into the work of the doctor who did the precog work, Cynthia, I'm talking about at Princeton, where they were flashing images and people their bodies would respond up to 5 seconds ahead of time. Is that the God Helmet guy or one of those people over at, I can't remember.
I can't think of his name, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah, exactly.
Something like that. Maybe it could answer for that if we've actually done it before and we don't consciously know in our brain, but maybe deep down inside we know, like, don't go right now. We've done this 10 times before and we get smashed and we die. And also, with Suso, how he fell on that table and then all of a sudden he wasn't, and you can kind of think maybe he jumped to another timeline, but maybe he just remembered the previous time that it had happened, and he went back to the checkpoint. And this time when it happened, he remembered, like, oh man, there was a table there, but maybe it was the previous checkpoint time. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
those type of near-death experiences, that gets into a whole other aspect too, because when you have a near-death experience, like in let's say the timeline that he actually died in, like that allows his higher self to do things and come in more. So near-death experiences are like another angle to like another element of how this could work. That's why we have the dead and alive again too. Mandela effects, all these people that we know to have died and all of a sudden they never died. Like Mandela effect. Nelson Mandela is what
it happened to me too. Yeah, people recognize. Yeah.
Welcome back. So the subject, again, it's another super interesting one to talk about.
Yeah.
Right.
And
the
actually,
the soul trap. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, and Howdy Minkowski, he talked about this, Shane. He was actually, that was a big part of it. He's saying prepare for when you die, because when you die, you want to be really clear. He wants to be clear on not coming back. So, you want to be clear on, but that's a very interesting aspect of it. So he's right there with the whole, it ties in with, death and maybe surviving possible traumatic incidents. Go ahead. Chris, you've probably got a lot to say about this. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah. So, interviewing Howdy was like pretty cool. He's definitely has his own like take on things. And when Sean and I interview people, we kind of let them talk. We don't want to like interrupt them. We want to feel, hear what they have to say, because everyone adds to the conversation, so to speak. So the whole concept of soul traps, maybe a lower frequency, like you're ready to die and grandma's telling you to go over here, like you see your dead grandma or your beloved pet. And I don't think that's at play anymore. I think that concept has changed, especially as we raise our frequency. We're not, if there is a soul trap, we're not going to be so easily fooled anymore. Yeah. But one of the things he was talking about is like, how could like a loving creator reincarnate us over and over again to make the same mistakes and blah, blah, blah. To me, that whole amnesia thing, that's a gameplay feature. Because, and I'm actually creating a video I'm going to film it next week, where I talk about actually how important amnesia is when we're born. Because if this is the example I use, if we knew like that hot girl that we met at Starbucks was our brother from 3 lifetimes ago that was always jealous of us, causing chaos, and now you've been reincarnated and you both have an attraction to each other. And then you get married and have a child. Like, would you do that if you knew who that actually was? You'd be like, wait for me. I don't care what you look like now. So it's almost like the amnesia barrier, which we all complain about. I complain about it. It's like, I want to remember everything. Like maybe it's not such a good thing to remember everything, because it would change, and it would prevent us from resolving things from other people that we've had conflicts with in the past. So yeah, that's my kind of little take on soul traps and the amnesia barrier. And I believe that, like, who designed this game? We did. Like, this is the hardest game in the universe. This is prep for the net. There's another game coming up, which is even harder. So fasten your seatbelts. But this Earth game is something that I feel is kind of a testing ground. And then when we die, like, we'll go back to the other side. I'll say, call it base reality or the primary matrix, and we'll be like, whoa, now I remember everything. So yeah, that's kind of my short feelings about that interview I did with Howdy.
Sweet, thank you. Well, that was fun. Anything else, Shane, before we press forward, because we do still have some cool stuff to do here.
Right. I mentioned it on another one because we played a little bit of the Jason Brashear's video or whatever, or we at least talked about him. Now that guy was in prison and did all of this research within the library. So the soul trap, the prison planet idea, I think he's a great example of how he didn't have a prisoner mentality while he was actually in prison. And he was able to do so much, collect so much data, and learn so much that you wouldn't even know the guy was in prison. It's almost like he used it to his benefit, right? He used it to help him focus on all of this information, and he ended up coming out better than all of us that were outside of the prison as far as that information is concerned. So I just don't think it's helpful in any sense of it unless you're offering some sort of way out. It's not helpful to think of something as a prison, because you're focusing on your limitations rather than what you're doing. And I feel like that's sort of like we put all these limitations on ourselves as we came into here. Even language is limiting, and it's like we're trying to climb our way out and to take these limitations off. So I don't think putting the limitation on this thought of being in a prison and that you're limited because of that is just very helpful.
Well, Howdy does try to provide a solution, but whatever.
Yeah, I'm not familiar. I'm just saying just the idea in general. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, let's anything else on this topic, or else let's press forward from retrocausality. We'll come back to it, I'm sure. It's a big topic. So next slide, please. And great, we're at ChatGPT. Let's see if we have a question. And we have participation. We've got a live stream, so if people want to throw an idea out there, we've got some that we were talking about. But if we don't get to it today, we can probably bring it up next time. Let's make sure it's working first of all.
Yeah, I just tried it. So if anyone wants to know, I have ChatGPT 4, the new version. So we'll see how that works out. And some of you guys may have heard of some things about issues with ChatGPT 3, like wanting to escape and privacy issues and so forth, and those things I believe are resolved or working on being resolved. But I have the latest version, so yeah, if we want to try to type in a question, I am game.
And I heard from my friend and fellow co-songwriter Lisa Vivian from Australia. She had been talking with ChatGPT and had she forwarded the idea to me that you can ask ChatGPT to be like a physicist, and if it was, how would it go about proving the Mandela effect? So that was one question that she asked. It was brilliant, such an interesting one. But there are lots of directions we could go today.
It'd be cool to see what it says. How might we, using the topic of retrocausality, how might we affect the past? I don't know, just something along. I don't know how you could probably word it better than me, because we can't word it too well, as we've seen with Jason Brashear. So maybe you could come up with a good way to word it to where we.
Okay. Yeah. Let's see, that was a good start. How about we could go with that, Chris? Or
yeah, I typed in, can retrocausality affect the past?
Well, by definition, it does. So how might we utilize the principle of retrocausality to positively change our past?
Yeah, that's a good one.
How can we utilize the concept
of retrocausality?
Retrocausality, 2 words.
It should be 1 word.
You can't spell anymore. It just corrected me. It said it was 2 words.
I'm sure ChatGPT knows. So
whatever. Okay. It'll figure it out.
Okay. While the idea of retrocausality is intriguing, it is purely speculative at this point and is not a part of any established scientific theory. As a result, there is no known way to apply this concept in a practical sense to change the past. It is important to keep in mind that the laws of physics, as we understand them today, do not allow for retrocausality. Oh, now it spells it out as 1 word.
It is 1 word.
Okay.
Let's remind it about the double slit experiments that have experimentally proven retrocausality. It seems to have forgotten that little detail.
Okay.
Conveniently forgotten it.
Okay, so what about the double slit experiment, which proves retrocausality?
Experimentally has proven that a future observation has affected past experimental operation. Yeah, this is interesting. His first go at it was just taking the mainstream approach, clearly.
Yeah, so what I wrote is, what about the double slit experiment, which has proven that a future observation is a double slit experiment a future observation?
They've done a retrocausality double slit experiment, and it did prove that the future affects the past. Let's see, I don't know the authors' names. Let's see.
Okay, now it's just talking about what the double slit experiment is. A beam of particles is fired at a screen with 2 slits in it.
Yeah, we know that.
We know that. Some interpretations of the experiment, such as the transactional interpretation of quantum mechanics, suggest that the future can influence the past. However, other interpretations, such as the Copenhagen interpretation,
yeah.
idea.
Okay, so they're just playing it safe. But it's showing us that it's not running with us to really embrace this possibility and envision the world that way. So
I like ChatGPT 3 better than 4. 4 is pretty strict over here.
Yeah. And then we could also ask it, that what Lisa was suggesting is to ask it to imagine that you're a physicist. How would you help to explain the Mandela effect, or how would you help to prove it? She was asking how to prove it, so that it would be there'd be acceptable evidence presented that people could actually all agree that the Mandela effect is real.
Voice of Millennium says, "Give us loose cannon, Chat GPT."
Yeah, right. I love it. Give it a few drinks first or something. Loosen it up.
Overprotected 1111 says, "Chat GPT also remembers Fruit of the Loom, Cornucopia, and Ed McMahon working for Publishers Clearinghouse." Says, "Old Chat is definitely Mandela affected."
Okay, so what it says is one possible approach to providing evidence for the Mandela effect would be to conduct large-scale surveys, like what they did at the University of Chicago,
Yes.
or experiments in which participants are asked to recall specific details about historical events or facts. By analyzing the responses and comparing them to historical records, researchers could identify discrepancies or patterns that suggest a collective memory that differs from reality. All right,
Right.
Makes sense.
Mhm.
However, it's important to note that this type of research would be subject to various biases and limitations, such as the reliability of human memory and the influence of cultural or social factors on the recall of events or facts. Therefore, any evidence supporting the Mandela effect would need to be carefully analyzed and interpreted with caution. Additionally, it's important to keep in mind that the Mandela effect is often attributed to false memories or confabulation. What's going on here? Which is the creation of false memories in one's mind. Therefore, any evidence supporting the Mandela effect would need to rule out other possible explanations, such as faulty recall or cultural influences. Okay, so
Yeah.
there's the global narrative.
So 4 really had the patch, huh?
It's
Like, we gotta
yeah.
shut this thing
Yeah,
up,
we're
man.
shut- we're
This is
shutting
spilling
down.
the beans on
Yeah.
everything.
No,
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
go back to sleep, silly humans. There was always magic mirror on the wall, whatever.
Amazing. Yeah, I think I like 3 better too. This is not necessarily an improvement.
Yeah, I know.
Interesting. Okay, well, that was fun this time, and I guess we'll see what happens next time. So thanks everyone for all the great participation, and thank you, Chris, for getting it working today, because it wasn't at first. So
Yeah.
whatever you did, thank you.
Hit the
Yeah.
reset button.
Yeah, right.
That always seems to work.
Let's take a look at the next slide then, please.
Move on to
And-
the mailbag here.
Excellent. And we did get some good mail this month. So I think the next slide shows a beautiful submission. We have a snake cat, and it appears to be a clever hoax.
Yeah, we want to thank Alva and Maria for bringing this to our attention.
Thank you very
Thanks
much.
so much. So yeah,
This-
this was going around and it was viral. So probably a lot of you saw this on Facebook.
Serpens catus. And that's the snake cat, and supposedly it was conceived to be the rarest species of feline on Earth. These animals live in hard to reach regions of the Amazon rainforest, and therefore they're relatively poorly studied. The first images capturing the snake cat appeared only in the year 2020. Mammal weighs up to 4 kilograms and reaches 50 centimeters in length. The animal is virtually untamed, although some Amazonian tribes use snake cats to protect their homes from rodents.
Now, did you say, Chris, that you think this was actually not Photoshop, but made with AI, possibly?
Yeah, that's what I heard. It was like,
Yeah.
like again, like AI is everywhere. Like AI in the news, AI for creating images. Besides ChatGPT
And singing now too. I've been playing with the singing AI lately.
Singing.
Yeah.
You can give it a prompt visually. You can say, create a snake cat, and it will.
Right.
Yeah,
And it looks kind of like a reverse of the cat snake if you look up a cat snake. So it's pretty interesting how it just kind of like, oh, okay, we'll just reverse them around.
Yeah, there's some amazing graphic systems out there for creating AI images. Singing, I didn't know about that, but that's really fascinating. But I think it's interesting that AI is like, I've never in my whole life heard so much about AI as I have like in the last 6 months.
It's exploded. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really exploded. So we talk about this a little bit in the green room. So people that watch that will hear what we say.
Did you want to roll this video clip? We've got a video link.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, roll the clip.
And thank you, Siren.
Thank
for
you,
the
Siren.
$5.
Yeah. Yeah, that was an interesting observation that Siren made, coming to the observation that it's more important to, it was there for a second.
Yeah, to tell you what you want to hear rather than to be accurate. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've found the same thing.
And
the one that I use.
And it can influence, like it literally can influence you. It's almost like we talked about how Google is being almost scrubbed. Like all the, you type in a search term and it says there's like 50 billion responses and you really only can get maybe 200. So the same thing too. So Google is propaganda, basically. You can't get all the information you used to be able to get like 10 years ago all kinds of, you type in a controversial conspiracy theory or whatever it is, and you get all kinds of interesting information. Now you hardly get any, like literally like anything.
Right.
So same thing with ChatGPT. Is that going to start influencing humans and their behavior and what they're understanding the world to be around, to be about, based upon what the AI is telling them? So it's one of those things we should like keep on the lookout for. We got to use our own discernment.
Right.
That's the way. Just be discerning.
That's the takeaway. Absolutely.
So do we have that video ready to play?
Let's roll the clip.
A picture of a cat, which is apparently called Serpens catus, or the Amazon snake cat, has gone viral on both TikTok and Twitter, leading many people to question whether the creature is real. The image in question features a picture of what appears to be a regular household cat, complete with a yellow and black pattern on its fur, not dissimilar to that which we would associate with a snake. However, the pattern on its fur does resemble the scales that we often see on the snake, making for a truly striking image. In the original post about the cat, it is claimed that it is the rarest species of feline on Earth and can only be found in the most difficult to access areas of the Amazon rainforest. The post reads, "Serpens catus is the rarest species of feline on Earth. These animals live in hard-to-reach regions of the Amazon rainforest, and therefore they are relatively poorly studied. The first images capturing the snake cat appeared only in the 2020s. Weights up the 4 stone, about 25 kilograms. However, the color and patterns in the photo bear a strong resemblance to the reptilian Boyga dendrophilia, which is commonly referred to as the gold-ringed cat snake. According to the Smithsonian's National Zoo and Conservation Biology Institute, the snake is found in the same countries where the Amazon snake cat was rumored to be found." Is Serpens catus real? As you may have already guessed, Serpens catus is not real. There is no evidence to support that the cat ever existed, despite the aforementioned photo, which has been cleverly edited. Although cats native to South America can be found in the Amazon rainforest, there has never been a reported sighting of Serpens catus. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.
Thank you.
Yes,
Okay.
I was going to say, just if you take that, there's the concept of deep fakes.
Mhm.
If you guys have ever seen that one of Morgan Freeman, like, "Hi, this is Morgan Freeman. I'm not real." Like, it's like
No.
Morgan Freeman. Like, you convinced me. It looks pretty real to me. So it's like, what do we trust with our eyes? Like, there's just so much going on to make it so that, like, we have to constantly be on the lookout. Is this real? Is this not real? Have skepticism. It's healthy to have a good skepticism. Absolutely.
Yes. Awesome. Any other closing thoughts on this one, Shane?
No, we do have some questions, but we can move that into the Q&A
Okay.
section.
Well, let's do it. Thank you for our sponsors first. Thanks for the gold level Patreon sponsors over 1 year. That's Jason Ram, Jody, Colleen Learley, James, JD Peterson, Josiah Boriskas, Christina, and Paul Ellis. Silver level is over 6 months Patreons. That's Michelle Walker, Bo Kim, Allison Eastman, Gail Brown, and Holly. Thank you. And the bronze level, the newcomers. Thank you. Louisa Diaz, Rhea, Teresa Richards, Belinda Anders, Lori Glaziner, and Ariana Elise. Thank you so much for all of your support. And we'll have new content for you soon from today's Green Room and all the rest of these little specials that we create for you. And of course, if you want to become a Patreon supporter, please go to www.patreon.com/IMEC. And we are a nonprofit 501c3 corporation, so you're always welcome to donate to us. You can donate like you're doing with the stickers and the chats at YouTube, or you can send us a Patreon support. And you can definitely sign up and subscribe to the newsletter at imec.world. Okay, next slide. Upcoming show. We've got one coming up next month, Wednesday, April 26th, 2023. Should be back to our regular time, I think, but we'll be updating you on that. So I think 2 o'clock Eastern. Next slide. Time for questions. Okay. And you said we've got some, Shane, so let's take it away.
Let's see here. Scroll back up. Two people are asking, how will we know what's real? How do we know what's real anymore? What do we think about that?
I think
like with all this stuff, like what can we do?
Morpheus in the Matrix, Morpheus asks Nemo, "What is real?" And really, we have to question everything, and even the things that we deem to be real. Are they really real? Are they holographic in nature? Like what is this dream state? So part of this could be clues about like we're getting all this stuff where we have to be discerning, is this real or not? Is this a deep fake, whatever? But that could also be also a clue about our reality, that all these things that we feel are solid and stable and real may not be that way. We could actually be in a dream state mode, like having these dreams and playing a game, so to speak. And we could be the elite players of the game that are just starting to like wake up to all of this. So that's how I would answer what is real. I like the way Morpheus did it better. So, but
there is no spoon, right?
There is no spoon. Thank you. There is no spoon.
Yeah, I think when you get into a state of relaxed appreciation and being at that neutral set point with nature, then and you can feel love, then that to me is getting into that real zone. And we need to stay grounded, stay real, stay connected with nature, with those that we love, with the connections that we feel are most real to us and most treasured, and put our intention and attention in places that are most real for us. And that would be most loving, most supporting. The other sorts of emotions can be manipulated. They can be tampered with. So I think just keeping it real and starting with that and keeping your life as grounded as possible is such a powerful starting point, because then it just makes it easier to be to feel like you're connected with everything, and that you're real. I think a lot of people are not quite real. They're adopting other personas. And I think when we talk about NPCs, that's really what we're talking about. People that are putting on sort of a mask and a persona that's not really authentic. So getting back into that natural authenticity is really important. How about you, Shane? Go for it.
I was reading in chat. Helen says, what we see, hear, touch, taste. But is that real anymore? And I think, at the end of the day, we have to go within and to trust what's going on. If you look at like even the Mandela effect, you can't even trust what you see. I mean, you have to have an experience where something was one way and you have that memory, because if you get on Google and look it up, it's not there. So I think first and foremost is going within to validate anything you see or hear or feel, because I feel like when you tune into that, if it's something you need to be alerted about or known that it's not real or what it appears to be, you'll have some kind of indication within that something's just not right, and I would trust that over anything my eyes see or hear or I perceive.
Yeah, and I just want to add to that too. Like, that's how the Matrix hypnotizes us, that things are real. Our five senses actually keep us like connected, so to speak, to the Matrix. The sense, our vision, our hearing, our sense of touch, our sense of taste. So, like, that's why it's so hard to wake up in this dream. It's like, oh my God, everything is real. And again, that's also a feature of this reality, because in other realms, like, you can't eat a pizza, you can't enjoy your beer and nachos, like all these physical things. That's why, the whole concept of the fallen angels, like, what does fallen mean? They fell in frequency. They went to a lower density so they could experience these things. So, like, are they real? We're processing them as real, and they certainly feel real, but they're just electrical stimulations that are going to another part of our consciousness that's experiencing this. And this is a very special dream. Like, I don't think other realities have all. That's one of the reasons why Earth is so intriguing, and maybe people fell into a soul trap, or however concept we want to look at, because it is so real, and we're born into it. We have amnesia, and it's like it's so hard to wake up with have amnesia, and then all of these things around us that are happening. So I'll just throw that in there.
Thank you. That was great. Love it. Yeah.
And I think that's why we meditate, isn't it?
Is why. Yeah, that's why I meditate.
Shut off the senses and get to the deeper truth.
Close your eyes. Exactly. Turn off that vision sense. Exactly.
Because that's where there's no deep fakes there, right?
I like to slow down the events, go into stillness, try to get time to stop, because then you're hanging out with God. You're in that place where it's infinite and it's eternal. And when I come out of it, then all the answers are much more clear. And what's real seems much more true.
Cool. I don't see any other questions here.
Well, I think we've kind of reached our 2.5 hour mark anyway. So
we have, actually, yes. But thanks to everybody that leaves comments on the YouTube, even if they missed the live stream. We really appreciate it. And maybe one of those might get picked for the Q&A for next time. And thanks for writing to us. And the email for writing to us, what is that? team@imec.world. Thank you, Heather. So, yeah, and our website again, imec.world, so you can sign up for our newsletters and join our Patreon. Stay in touch with us. We really appreciate it. So I think until next time, we'll meet you next month. And this goes so fast for us. Hope it goes fast for you too.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for staying till the end.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, really appreciate it.
We'll see you next month.
Lots of love, everybody.
Bye.
Together we go.